Part 200. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1995. Don't say that. No matter what the reason is, the reality just can't be pushed away. We even have a peak mid-level star here who doesn't dare to take action. Oh, that's too cowardly. They all felt very depressed about the situation where the enemy was obviously more powerful than the Zerg Queen, but could not attack. After all, the advantage is so great, but it is still impossible to attack, and it is even more necessary to find ways every time to send people with similar strength to the enemy to fight. It's okay to win in this way, but if they lose, some competitors in the rear who are not so friendly with them will use this as a reason to criticize them and attack them. In fact, this kind of situation has not happened before, it has always existed. After all, after the war, their forces suffered extremely heavy losses. Even the existence of the domain personally took action and lost a small battle. In this way, they can no longer cause a war, that is, the situation is mutually acquiesced. It had been maintained very well before, and their position losses were not too great. It can be said that both sides basically maintained a peaceful situation. The problem is, that Jia Yan is here. It is said that when this guy came to the Zerg Queen's force from a distance, he was attacked by the territory lord of their force. You know, that was a sneak attack by a territory lord. Generally speaking, even if a territory lord's creature is injured again, there is absolutely no reason for a surprise attack on a mid-level being who has just entered the galaxy. But luckily, Jia Yan actually escaped. Not only did he escape, he actually arrived at the position here not long after. Then, the people on their side knew why Jia Yan was able to escape the personal pursuit of the domain master creature. That is, he is too strong. And based on the current facts, they really can't send a being stronger than Jia Yan to deal with him, otherwise they will break the current facts. The enemy was very troubled by Jia Yan's coming again. But here at the Zerg Queen's position, everyone was excited. As soon as Jia Yan arrived, they started fighting again in the past few days. The enemy who escaped unexpectedly stopped in an instant and no longer dared to make any move against them. Seriously, if you want to advance, you can move forward. After all, they occupy a commercial star. The distance between the commercial star and this position is almost a few days. This is too close. The Zerg Queen's people have every reason to use this as an excuse to move their position forward. But the Queen of the Zerg doesn't dare to provoke the opponent anymore. If the enemy is really angered by them, regardless of everyone's default rules, the existence of the middle-level peak of the galaxy will take action angrily, which even Jia Yan will find difficult to resist. So everyone fell silent like this. When the enemy saw Jia Yan coming, they had no way to deal with him, so they stopped moving. But here, they were waiting for something and stopped teasing the enemy. The entire front became peaceful after Jia Yan arrived. Wait, there will always be some changes. Yes, the Zerg Queen has a huge appetite. Besides, there are so many galaxies, and they only occupy a few commercial stars. They are definitely not satisfied. Not to mention the Zerg Queen, they will definitely not be satisfied with the harvest at this time. That is, if a domain master creature is satisfied with only 4 or 5 business stars and has so many subordinates, I will definitely not be satisfied. As soon as they start to move, we will have reason to unite with external forces and let them borrow troops to fight for us. In this case, external forces will not take the opportunity to attack us. Now there is only one opportunity left. Question. Wait. Not only Jia Yan's position, but also the offensive positions launched by the Zerg Queen against the 2-star regions all looked like this. After the enemy saw that the Zerg Queen was not prepared to continue attacking the surrounding areas, they knew that there must be something brewing on the Zerg Queen's side, so they were also waiting. The enemies really don't believe it. There are so many galaxy-level beings in the Zerg Queen's power, and there is also a territory lord. How can he survive on just 4 or 5 occupied commercial stars? In fact, you can really live a good life. The strong men in the center of the galaxy star territory don't know how poor the outside world is, especially places like the Zerg territory and the Orion Arm. The Zerg Queen may be a little better. They usually use star cores and other things, which is a common thing. The worst one is Jia Yan. Think back and think about what this kid has been using. Metals, low-level energy, rare minerals, and energy liquids snatched here and there. Jia Yan's energy throughout his career would make the strong men in the central star region of the Milky Way cry with sympathy. It was so miserable. They may have never thought that it would be a miracle for any existence to be promoted to the middle level of the galaxy using something that even a beggar would not use. So they didn't even know that when they saw the output of 4 or 5 planets in the central star field of the Milky Way, not only ordinary galactic class like Jia Yan, but also the Queen of the Zerg were a little unable to sit still. So rich. An ordinary business star can live on 3 or 4 galaxy levels, 4 or 5. That's really a lot. If we combine these 4 or 5 in a business, the output ratio can be more than doubled, and even the Queen of the Zerg will feel that it is enough. Further expansion? It's fine if it can be expanded, but there won't be anything missing if it doesn't expand. At least the strong men here, before they get used to the lavish use of energy in the central star field of the Milky Way, don't think there is any benefit in expanding the dead. There was still some desire to expand before, but after Jia Yan landed a dozen planets, everyone suddenly didn't feel like continuing. As a result, the war between the Zerg Queen's forces and the 2 star regions came to an extremely strange halt. Of course, the Zerg Queen's thoughts cannot be hidden from the enemy's spies. After all, there are many galaxy classes, and many galaxy classes also have business dealings. After contacting outside business people, there are always some big mouths to talk about. The enemy knew why the Zerg Queen's forces did not take action. Do you think they think it's enough? At least for the members of this rural force, this place is not a permanent place for them to stay, it is just enough. How poor a place must one come from for even a territory lord to think that 4 or 5 commercial stars are enough? Doesn't the local domain lord creature need to be supported by more than 10 business stars just for one person to be able to spend money? She actually co-authored it with others and got 4 or 5 commercial stars. Poor man. When everyone who knew about the power of the Zerg Queen seemed to be having a holiday recently, happily using the output of 4 or 5 business stars and not wanting to continue to expand at all, the top management of the 2 major star regions were confused. In the current situation, should they fight or not? If you fight, people will die, and if you fight with a group of country bumpkins like this, it's not worth it. If they don't hit them, it seems that these country bumpkins really want to leave, so that no one will die. But there is also a problem. Where can I put them if I don't slap them in the face? The fight was like that before, even the territory lord was almost seriously injured, but now let it go. Let them occupy the commercial star for a period of time, wait until they are gone, and then go back to receive it. Now, the other party has been struggling. Ha ha ha, I see. I finally understand why the people over there look at us like that in the past few days. When Jia Yan heard this information, he couldn't help but smile. It's so fun. This is the result of the unequal intelligence and value systems of both parties. People think that the 4 or 5 business stars are simply too poor, but the people here think that the 4 or 5 business stars in the central star region of the Milky Way are so rich that they can bleed oil. Although they support the output of so many people, it's not too rich, but it's enough. Your Excellency Jia Yan, when I heard this, I also wanted to laugh, but I couldn't laugh anymore. The center of the Milky Way is really too rich, and we are actually being laughed at for spending such money. I look down upon it, it feels a bit embarrassing. What a shame. Anyway, I don't feel that way. At least for me, I think it's good as it is now. Jia Yan didn't care at all about being laughed at by his comrades. Seeing that Jia Yan didn't care, the other party said so. Haha, it seems that you, Mr. Jia Yan, are more open-minded. How can they understand your state of mind? Even if you are the one they laugh at the most, you won't care. Jia Yan was startled. The one they laugh at the most is me? Why do you say that? It's not your promotion process. They heard about it? They said that rag pickers are better than you. You actually went to absorb the energy in metal. How poor are you? You probably have a father but not a father to support you. Ha ha ha, I just said, their ridicule will definitely have no effect on someone as powerful as Lord Jia Yan, so you definitely don't mind. As the galaxy-level existence of his comrade in arms talked, Jia Yan's face was first happy, then solemn, and finally gloomy, and then he felt furious. Without saying anything, Jia Yan walked out. Master Jia Yan, why are you going? I'm going to challenge you. Damn it, I can't stand scolding me for picking up rags. I can't stand it if you scold me for being born and raised by your father. Jia Yan's family will always be a pain in his heart. Today, someone scolded him like this. He really couldn't bear it. My uncle can't bear it, but my aunt can't. The galaxy-level being was immediately stunned. Damn, he also said that Jia Yan would definitely not be angry. He had been kind when he said that the enemy was ridiculing the entire force, but now that he knew that he himself was being named as a joke, he couldn't help it anymore. This Jia Yan is a bit petty. No, Sir Jia Yan, don't be impulsive. It's finally peaceful. Don't be impulsive. After being stunned for a while, this elementary being from the galaxy quickly chased out of the position. Jia Yan rushed towards the enemy. At this moment, the positions of both sides were relatively calm as always. But on the Zerg Queen's side, an extremely huge behemoth rushed out of the mist of the position, instantly breaking the peaceful atmosphere at this time. Huh? Jia Yan from the Zerg Queen's side? Damn, what is this guy doing? He seems to have eaten a powder keg and came towards us. What? Jia Yan? This guy actually rushed over. Why are you so angry? We didn't mess with him. Damn it, he must be here to fight. Hurry up and report it. Several galaxy-level adults are taking a rest right now. To take advantage of this situation, it must be premeditated. On the enemy's position here, one by one the venerables or star-level beings all took action instantly. They were frightened. Jia Yan actually rushed towards the position here. Hey! Who among you guys dares to come out and fight me, Jia Yan? Jia Yan seemed to be furious and shouted loudly at the fog of the enemy's position. The brainwave power shook violently, causing the enemy's mist to shake. Some of the venerable level creatures inside were so shocked that they had splitting headaches and blood spurted from their mouths and noses. This is the strength of a galaxy intermediate, and Jia Yan is not an ordinary galaxy intermediate. He is a galaxy intermediate with actual combat power that is much stronger than ordinary galaxy intermediates. It's just that at this time, he didn't have the bearing of a strong man, as if he was angry. Dare you scold me? Although I don't know whether the father you are referring to is Jia Sheng from Jia's family on Earth, or the Mosquito father who has been dead for who knows how many years. In short, this is an insult to the family, and it is unbearable for us Chinese people. Jia Yan still has some ancient ideas, so he simply can't bear the thought of his family being humiliated. Of course, all this is still superficial. He wouldn't do this if he didn't have the strength. No matter how angry or bad-tempered he was already a middle-level person in the galaxy. There were so many life and death battles, big and small, that he couldn't bear it. Such an explosion was due to anger, and also because after practicing in the battlefield for a period of time, his strength improved again due to the support of energy. So I came to challenge because I wanted to test my strength. Which of my peers dares to come to fight with me, Jia Yan. If you dare to humiliate me, no one dares to challenge me. Jia Yan stood guard at the door of the enemy's position, imitating the enemy's provocation, and yelling arrogantly like a rampage. Damn it, I was actually called into battle by the Zerg Queen today. The people on the other side are too bold. In this case, even if we send Lord Odo, there is definitely no reason. Humph, if Lord Odo goes out, this guy will definitely escape. Who says it's not the case? There is a big gap between a person at the top of the galaxy intermediate level and an ordinary galaxy level intermediate like him. He will definitely run away. A group of creatures here were discussing this, and several mid-level galaxy powerhouses in the camp actually recovered from their cultivation after hearing the sound. Jia Yan? You are seeking death. The person who immediately responded to Jia Yan's voice was Odo, who was at the top of the middle level of galaxy. He had an extremely sinister look on his face. He had suffered losses at the hands of Jia Yan several times before, and even lost a business star. This was when he was extremely angry. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1996. Now Jia Yan didn't know what kind of medicine he had taken, and came to their position to yell and curse, which made him feel even more uncomfortable. Originally, because there were many galaxy-level beings here, and there was a being at the top of the intermediate galaxy like him, so, at least in this position, the people from the Zerg Queen's force did not even dare to call the position once. Because I have no confidence. But I never expected that Jia Yan would actually come to call for formation today. Still calling them names and scolding them. Jia Yan, do you think I won't fight? The middle-level peak being in the galaxy named Odo had an indifferent look on his face, as if he couldn't see anything unhappy about him. But his subordinates all knew that this mid-level peak powerhouse in the galaxy was really angry. Never seen him so angry. This strong man has never been a person who likes to be angry, but the creatures in this position vaguely remember that among the strong Zerg Queens who confronted them at the beginning, there was also a middle-level galactic one. As a result, because of that Zerg Queen, the middle-level beings of the galaxy ridiculed the territory master of their power, saying that he could not defeat the Zerg Queen. Then this mid-level galaxy being became angry, and took the initiative to attack in one breath, beating the mid-level galaxy being into a state of serious injury and dying. And because the other party said it first, this matter gradually faded away. Even the people on the Zerg Queen's side did not think of causing trouble. Who made the Zerg Queen's intergalactic existence want to do something to them? Are the Domain Lord creatures here disrespectful? Territory Lord creatures, even if the two sides are relatively hostile and can avoid insulting them, then it is better not to insult them. What about Jia Yan this time? To be honest, he did not insult the Territory Lord. In fact, he seemed to be angry, but there was a limit. If the matter involved the Territory Lord creature, it would be difficult for him to handle, even if the enemy's Territory Lord creature, in fact, after sneak attacking him once, he already wanted to curse his mother in his heart, but these words could only be hidden in his stomach instead of being cursed directly. When you really have the strength, running to beat up the opponent's Domain Lord, then forget it. If you don't have the strength at this time, scolding the Domain Lord on the battlefield is the behavior of a fool. Jia Yan was not a fool, so he didn't do this. Oh, Lord Odo, do you want to go to war? I'm looking forward to it, but are you sure you want to bully the small? When Jia Yan saw Odo, the strongest among the enemies, the one at the top of the middle level of the galaxy, his expression became slightly solemn, and then he sneered. He had long expected that the opponent's mid-level peak being from the galaxy would make an appearance. But now, Jia Yan's strength has improved a lot after returning to the Zerg Queen's force, because he used a lot of energy supplies, and he has some new battle insights, so at this moment, the existence of the peak of the middle level of galaxy makes me feel eager to try. You can fight, but you will definitely lose. If you lose, if you can protect yourself from being hurt, it is not considered a true loss. Of course, you can also not fight. The result of not fighting is that the enemy is coward and does not want to bear the accusation of bullying the small. Jia Yan was right to scold him today, but it was not like last time. The Galaxy mid-level man directly spoke ill of the enemy's territory lord. Odo could naturally take action, but Jia Yan didn't say anything about the territory lord's creature, he just had a bad mouth. I know why I stink as if I had eaten gunpowder today. But having a bad mouth is not the reason for a top mid-level galactic person to go and fight Jia Yan. If he tells it, Odo will not be able to stand if there is a real war in the future, their forces will bear a certain violation by the Zerg Queen. As a result of the rules, people from the Zerg Queen's forces will use this battle as a reason to say it's even. So Odo's original intention was not to fight Jia Yan. But, looking at Jia Yan who seemed to be eager to try, Odo had something he wanted to do, and his heart grew crazily. If I severely injure Jia Yan in this battle, can I stop the opponent's power for a while? I might even take back the commercial star if I have a chance. He was very moved in his heart. It is impossible to engage in a gambling fight with Jia Yan. If someone is willing to fight you, a person at the top of the middle level of the galaxy, it is already an absolute advantage for you. You still want others to bet with you when you will definitely lose. If the people from the Zerg Queen's force were so stupid, they would not be able to support the two-star forces in fighting. But beating Jia Yan to the point of being seriously injured or even dying is really a chance to try. A fierce light appeared in Odo's eyes. Jia Yan, don't be too proud. Let me ask you, do you really want to fight me? Do you know what this means? Odo asked coldly. Jia Yan looked fearless. Of course I know, and I very much look forward to fighting with Lord Odo. As for whether you are worried about whether I will be injured, then I ask you to show mercy. Jia Yan actually knew how to beg for mercy first. To be honest, at this moment, he was really eager to give it a try. In the past, he had always been killing enemies at higher levels. Nowadays, because those who have reached the middle level of the galaxy, the talents of those who can reach this level are not much inferior to Jia Yan. Even after reaching the central star field of the Milky Way, there are as many geniuses here as stars. It is very likely that there are many talents who are more talented than him. A good existence. So after Jia Yan arrived here, he didn't even dare to provoke the mid-level peak of the galaxy that was only half a step higher than him. Even Ou Duo looked down on him many times and felt that he couldn't take action. So, he felt it in his heart. Somewhat unhappy. But now, he feels that his strength has a certain possibility to fight with the peak of the middle-level galaxy, and he is eager to try. At least get rid of that bad breath first. Haha, very good, Jia Yan, I have to say, I like this thing about you country people, that is, you are so naive and stubborn that you can't even understand the difference between the middle level of galaxy and the peak of intermediate galaxy hee. Odo smiled. Then, in the hands of the people on both sides of the surroundings, indifferently, the figure slowly emerged from the mist of the position. This represents his acceptance of Jia Yan's provocation and his intention to take action. People on both sides were shocked. The Queen of the Zerg is definitely shocked and a little anxious. You must know that Jia Yan is the absolute strongest fighting force here, but now I don't know if he took the wrong medicine and went to provoke the middle-level peak existence of the galaxy. Although it is big, most of the astral level and venerable level people couldn't see how big the gap was between the intermediate galaxy level, but they definitely understood that the gap between the two sides was so big that it was a bit surprising. Yes, there is actually quite a gap between the intermediate galaxy and the peak intermediate galaxy. It is so bad that many people think that another level title should be created between the intermediate galaxy and the peak intermediate galaxy. But this is impossible. Originally, the middle level of the galaxy was the middle level of the galaxy. Although the gap between the middle level of the galaxy has been as big as the chasm since ancient times, some people have even violated the will of the ancient strong men. Between the middle level of the galaxy and the high level of the galaxy, during this time, the level of Domain Lord was inserted abruptly. Of course, this was just a disguised insertion, and there was no official recognition. It was just that everyone accepted this title. But if people accept that there is another level between the middle level of the galaxy and the peak of the middle level of the galaxy, it will really be ridiculous. So even though countless people understand that the gap in strength between the middle level of the galaxy and the peak of the middle level of the galaxy is so huge that it is a bit disappointing, this fact is still maintained. At this moment, Jia Yan actually provoked a peak mid-level star. And it is the peak of the middle-level galaxy in the central star field of the Milky Way. In the ordinary star field in the outside world, he still has a chance to win the middle-level peak of the galaxy where he has not received formal instruction or has friends to compete with. But if he changes to the middle-level peak of the galaxy here, it is really there is no chance of encountering a weak one, because such beings have experienced many actual battles and at least have countless knowledge of prosperous combat, so there is no weak one at all. Master Jia Yan is so stupid. Oh, what should we do? If he is really injured, our position will be difficult to handle. Jia Yan, how could he be so, I don't even know what to say about him. It must have been the victory in the previous battle that made him dizzy. The problem now is that he was so dizzy that he actually provoked a top mid-level star in the galaxy. Didn't he agree not to fight with the top mid-level star in the galaxy? Fight. On the side of the Zerg Queen's forces, a group of galaxy-level beings, as well as stellar-level venerables and the like, are all anxious. They couldn't go to the front of the battlefield to persuade Jia Yan. After all, he had already successfully provoked him. They couldn't pull him back from the battlefield now. Even if Jia Yan suddenly woke up, the other party would probably not agree. In other words, the current situation of the battle has become one where Jia Yan succeeds in committing suicide, but the only thing missing is the outcome. Unlike the people from the Zerg Queen's forces here, there was cheering and applause on the opposite side. Ha ha ha, I originally thought that Jia Yan would be a formidable enemy, but now I see that he is just a fool. Yes, I was very afraid of him before, but he is so brainless. It seems that I am overthinking. He's just a country boy. I've said it a long time ago. Such a country boy will definitely swell. You see, it's true now. Oh, he's overestimated. He's just a stupid person. Well, regardless of whether he is stupid or not, his fighting ability is good. Now that Lord Odo can deal with him, it will create a good fighting environment for us in the future. It's just that it's best if he is stupid. I don't know what the other teammate will think. They will definitely feel that he has met a pig teammate. That's right, that's right. If I were Jia Yan's teammate, I would definitely think that I was on a team with a pig teammate, and I'd be pissed to death. The enemy was in high spirits, and also had a bit of false sympathy, sympathizing with Jia Yan's teammates. It is a pity that Jia Yan has already guessed their external emotions, and they will not affect his mood at all. Oh! Otto has completely flown out of the fog and out of the normal cosmic space. And while he was gradually flying towards Jia Yan, he was slightly surprised. Because of the subspace talent of this Zerg Queen, she was actually a little indifferent, as if she wasn't afraid of her own feelings at all. Jia Yan, do you really think you can fight me? Have you ever fought against an intermediate level peak being in the galaxy before? Otto used his body with legs to slowly approach Jia Yan. No. Jia Yan shook his head. Odo continued to approach. So, how do you think you have the ability to fight me? Jia Yan knew what the other party meant. He was letting himself get discouraged. After all, he would be a little worried about the last mid-level galaxy creature, any mid-level galaxy creature. Jia Yan was indeed a little worried, but what he worried about was only whether he could perform well. As for whether he would be seriously injured or even dying, he was not worried. The reason is very simple. Jia Yan said it directly. What do I think? Haha, Sir Odo, my reason is that I have escaped from the hands of the Domain Master twice. Do you think this reason is enough? His words were precise, and he was not at all afraid of facing a peak mid-level star in the galaxy. Huh? You too? Otto's expression suddenly changed. They all know that Jia Yan once escaped from the Domain Lord creature, because that Domain Lord was their supreme leader. But they don't know that just some time ago, Jia Yan escaped from another territory lord. Even that territory lord may be as strong as the Zerg Queen. It is very likely that he will be stronger than their territory lord. Be stronger. And these people don't even know that Jia Yan probably escaped from the Domain Master creatures more than twice, because he had similar experiences in the alien space and in the spirit domain before, but those were not in person, so it's okay not to count. In short, Jia Yan was able to escape from the Domain Master creature, so what do you, Odo, mean to you? This is what Jia Yan means. Very good, Your Excellency Jia Yan, when you look at it this way, you really have some confidence. So good, let's have a try. Let me see the middle-level galactic people who can escape from the hands of the Domain Lord creatures. What methods does have? Odo no longer used his aura to suppress Jia Yan. After all, Jia Yan was a middle-level star in the galaxy. For a peak mid-level star like him, using aura to suppress Jia Yan was simply ineffective. At this time, he had already arrived in front of Jia Yan. Compared with Odo, whose body is nearly 40 kilometers in size, Jia Yan, whose body is more than 30 kilometers long, is not inferior. But in terms of strength, there is still a slight gap. Jia Yan's momentum is still a little behind compared to him. Puff. When both sides were watching the scene nervously, Otto was the first to take action. Really fast. Is this the peak of the intermediate galaxy? Instantly, Jia Yan, who was facing the pressure of his attack, felt unimaginable pressure. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1997. It's like Mount Tai is overwhelming. He couldn't help but be shocked. They are both at the middle level of the galaxy, but there is such a huge gap. The difference in combat power between the two sides is definitely huge. Jia Yan had never fought against the beings at the top of the middle level of the galaxy before. Although he did face to face with the territory lords and was even chased by them, those 2 times were relatively dangerous, and he was aware of it in advance and he barely escaped with his space talent. It can be said that the battle with the territory lord's existence has at most enhanced his sense of crisis, but it is not of great help to his own combat effectiveness. Now facing a mid-level peak of the galaxy, although he is not like a Domain Lord creature who can be crushed by absolute strength in an instant, he is still in panic all day long. An extremely amazing momentum makes Jia Yan unable to breathe. Come. Of course, you can't breathe in the universe. For the galaxy level and even the weaker star level and venerable level, you almost don't need to breathe. You can stay in the universe forever through the conversion of energy. In short, facing this blow, Jia Yan felt that it was not as good as the territory lord, but it was not something he could resist. Boom boom boom. Jia Yan suddenly retreated. Can you escape? Odo on the opposite side had an extremely arrogant expression on his face, and he immediately accelerated his attack speed. Whether I can escape or not is not up to you. I can even escape from the existence of the territory lord, so what does it matter to you? Jia Yan snorted coldly, and just as he took a small step back, his body had already disappeared into the subspace. Buzz. How could Odo, who had known his talent for a long time, let Jia Yan enter the subspace so easily. After all, he was blind inside the subspace and had no idea what was going on. It was impossible to chase him into the subspace and kill him. Jia Yan. As soon as the brainwave power stirred up, Jia Yan felt that there was a shocking power in the subspace for an instant, making it almost chaotic. Puff. He stepped halfway in and was suddenly forced out of the subspace. Sharp. This was the first time that Jia Yan was forced to retreat into the subspace when facing a strong person. The previous enemies he fought against did not have this ability. Of course there is a territory lord, but both times the territory lord either rushed in from a very far distance, and fled to the very depths of the subspace, or he himself was within 10 degrees of the subspace, and could not count. At this moment, Jia Yan felt a little timid when facing Odo, who was very likely to have the talent to deal with subspace. But this is not a bad thing for Jia Yan. At least no matter whether he wins or loses, no one will die in this battle. This is the final limit for Jia Yan to dare to challenge Odo. If he does not die, then he will have accumulated experience. Probably Odo also knew this, so he showed no mercy at all when dealing with Jia Yan. If you don't kill him, that's a theoretical statement. If you actually kill him, it can be said to be a miss at best. At least the battle must end quickly and give experience to a country bumpkin like Jia Yan. That is the most troublesome thing. For locals like Odo, the country bumpkins from out of town have one of the most unique characteristics. That is, those who come to the center of the galaxy usually have some talent. Even for the residents in the center of the galaxy, this talent may be just that, but because of their combat experience in the outside world and a little bit of talent in the center of the galaxy, with the accumulated experience, their combat effectiveness will increase dramatically in a short period of time. This is probably the most depressing thing for people in the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy. Even these foreign bumpkins, often in a short period of time, will regurgitate the combat experience and combat intelligence they have mastered, and return their personal gains to the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy, strengthening the more absolute power within the galaxy. The central strength, but those strong men who encountered them first were a bit unlucky, because generally speaking, such strong men were waiting to be used as cannon fodder. Faced with such a situation, one can either live in harmony and equality and wait for these powerful foreign dragons to pass by, or use the force of thunder to kill these country bumpkins in one breath like the wind. At this moment, the Zerg Queen's forces are already facing off against the two local forces, so Odo has no choice, and the comrades with him have no choice. They can only kill the Zerg Queen quickly, so that after they gain experience, they will become stronger and cause more headaches to those in their power. Especially for a unique talent like Jia Yan, he will use his experience of dealing with several space talent beings to seriously injure or kill him in one go. This will definitely be beneficial to future wars. Huh? How hard it is? Jia Yan was startled. The other party thought so much, but Jia Yan never thought about it. But for him, fighting is a life and death battle, not a life and death battle. He is still not used to it. Like the last two times, when fighting the enemy, he has to take care of their life and death. This means that the strength gap is too big, otherwise I definitely can't hold back because I've never had that kind of experience. The opponent attacked with all his strength in one breath. For Jia Yan, it was not a shocking thing. At most, it just made him fight with all his strength. Not letting me enter the subdimensional space means that you are not sure that I will enter the subdimensional space. When Jia Yan didn't retreat just now, so he could only raise his front foot and barely meet Odo's blow, causing a violent collision. Puff. Click. The metal foot gloves that had performed so well in the previous battles with the enemy suddenly felt like they were broken. If it hadn't been for it, Jia Yan's foot might have broken with just one blow. It can be seen how powerful the galaxy intermediate peak is, which is only half a level higher. Back off, back off. Jia Yan took advantage of the collision force and retreated violently. At the same time, the power of his brain waves was concentrated in the rear, suddenly tearing apart a piece of subspace, and the person was shot into the subspace. Still want to escape? Injure me. A solemn look appeared in Odo's eyes, and he caught up again. He had used a lot of strength in the blow just now, but Jia Yan actually blocked it. Although he also understood that the metal foot gloves played a huge role in it, but more importantly, Jia Yan himself was strong enough. Otherwise, no matter how strong the foot gloves were, they would never be able to stop a galaxy mid-level a shot at peak existence. At this moment, he had real murderous intent. Because Jia Yan really has great potential. If he masters his fighting methods and fighting style more and waits for him to make a certain breakthrough again, then it is very likely that Jia Yan will not lose to Odo so easily. This is a problem in the future, so it's best to get rid of it now. Buzz. The power of his brain waves suddenly increased, trying to control the subspace behind Jia Yan. The battle between the two sides actually started in a battle circle where the brainwave power of both sides was greatly expanded. This is like the realm of star-level existences, but it is higher than the realm, because the existences of the mid-level galaxy are no longer limited to realms. What they release is only the brain that is beneficial to their own battles. Wave power, brainwave power is flexible and changeable. Wherever it goes, it is its own domain. Compared with the so-called domain of the star level, it is infinitely stronger. In fact, this is a way to maximize the use of energy. Just like Otto, for a moment he wanted to control Jia Yan's retreat, so the space where Jia Yan retreated was instantly affected by the power of his brain waves, turning it into a copper wall and an iron wall, making the subspace solidify. Open it for me. But Jia Yan would never let him have his way. Fighting in the normal space, Jia Yan has no chance of winning. He has to retreat to the subspace to fight. This is his style. Bang. The power of Yin-Yang Dao was used fiercely. The hind foot only felt that the power controlling the area where it retreated was like melting spring snow, shattering in an instant. Then, Jia Yan stepped into the area he was accustomed to, subspace. Huh? Just as the intelligence said, it actually has such terrifying explosive power. Unfortunately, the skills for using this power are still very rough. Otherwise, it would be even more powerful when it explodes. Where did Jia Yan learn this from? A crude explosive technique. It seems relatively simple, but its future development potential is extremely terrifying. Otto's eyes narrowed slightly. He had long received rumors that Jia Yan had such explosive power from several comrades who had fought with Jia Yan before, as well as from rumors in the market. But he had heard it before. In fact, when he came into contact with this kind of power, he realized the feeling of power. As a powerful person, he naturally understood it at once. This power seemed relatively rough, but Jia Yan seemed to be able to use it. There were quite a few loopholes, but for him, he simply saw the potential of this power. Don't try to escape. But sighing about strength is sighing about strength, but fighting is fighting. At least for Odo, Jia Yan's performance in this moment of fighting was not enough to shock him so much that he even forgot about the fighting. He chased closer. The difference in strength between the two creatures is a bit big, but the difference in size is not much, so when he approached Jia Yan, it was like approaching a monster with half of its body entering the inexplicable twisted space. Too fast. Jia Yan had a severe headache. The opponent's speed was too fast, and his thoughts of retreating into subspace were blocked again and again. The only choice is to fight hard one more time. He looked at his feet, raised the other forefoot with a metal glove, and used the intact metal glove to meet the opponent's chopped elbow. Bang! With one blow, sparks scattered throughout the space, and endless flames were like stars exploding, causing the entire space to shake. The subspace is also vibrating. At this moment, Jia Yan retreated violently, and the metal boot on one foot turned into powder. His idea of absorbing this foot cover as a part of his body in the future is simply out of reach. But the foot gloves are still effective. At least at this moment, after being attached to Jia Yan's brainwave power, they are as hard as iron, no, far stronger than steel, and then blocked an angry blow from a middle-level star of the galaxy. Can you stop it again? You. Seeing Jia Yan once again borrowing the offensive and defensive strength of both sides to quickly sneak into the interior of the space, Odo's eyes almost popped out of his head. He was still wary of Jia Yan's subspace, and originally wanted to take advantage of Jia Yan's normal space to easily deal with him and end the battle. Otherwise, he would feel like he would have a headache if he was dragged into subspace. After all, his subspace talent is beyond the reach of even the Domain Lord creatures. Unfortunately, this idea failed, and Jia Yan retreated into the subspace in front of him. Inside. At this moment, the scene of the battle left everyone on both sides completely stunned. No one thought that the battle between these two people would be so intense. Jia Yan, a newcomer to the Zerg Queen's force, did not appear in the first battle to the enemy, so his reputation was not very good. He only had a little bit of success in the last battle. But until now, no one believed that a strong country bumpkin like him could deal with the peak mid-level galaxy in the central star field of the Milky Way. Even though he had faced the cooperation of two mid-level galaxies and easily won, no one thought that he could even withstand a strong man at the top of the mid-level galaxies. But what I never expected was that although Jia Yan still didn't look like Odo's opponent at this moment, he actually withstood the storm of attacks. This was unexpected by everyone. Could it be that Lord Jia Yan can even defeat Odo? On the side of the Zerg Queen's force, several venerable beings in the Zerg Queen's force almost held their breath. They actually couldn't understand the battle between the strong men. After all, the speed of the battle between the two sides and the power of the battle made it impossible for them to get close to the brainwave power, so they could only see the light and shadow effect. No, this is because you are overthinking. Mr. Jia Yan cannot win. A stellar being on the side shook his head. Master Jia Yan can't win, but his current performance has opened everyone's eyes. On the other side, there was a being at the pinnacle of a star, who was filled with emotion. At this time, there is another Zerg Queen of the first level of the galaxy. Interrupted. Yes, Master Jia Yan can't win, but with his strength, there is a slight chance that he can draw us to a draw. That's right, even if it's a tie in the running space, Lord Jia Yan can still be considered a success, a big success. Haha, yes, he has entered the subspace. Let's see what Odo will do now. Master Jia Yan has entered the subspace. The sky is high and the sea is wide, so what can he do to Master Jia Yan? The last group of people who spoke had completely transformed into several galaxy-level beings, and each of them was chatting happily. The speech between strong people is actually very fast, because they communicate through brainwave power, so in fact, even the battle on Jia Yan's side may not be as fast as their communication. Ever since, they were still saying that the battle here had just entered Jia Yan's retreat into the subdimensional space. So what if you enter the subspace? I just wanted to learn how strong your subspace talent is. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1998. Nayaduo has always been a little curious about Jia Yan's subspace. In the previous battles, he didn't personally experience Jia Yan's subspace talent. At this moment, he can take a look. Buzz. Just when Jia Yan entered, he used his brainwave power to directly block the surrounding space. Of course, Jia Yan is not a soft persimmon that others can pinch at will. When he used his subspace power, Jia Yan instantly used his brainwave power and subspace talent at the same time. With a buzzing sound, although it is not as powerful as the opponent's brain waves, because of his talent as a leverage point, at least the space around him is stabilized. But at the same time, Otto's feet had already penetrated into the subspace. I've killed a few with subspace talent, so don't be complacent. Otto sneered. Those with subspace talents are no strangers to the creatures in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. They even have experience in dealing with them after fighting them many times. For example, Otto has fought against many existences with subspace talents, such as the mid-level existence with subspace talents that Jia Yan also fought before. He often fights against them, so he has a lot of experience. Regarding the existence of subspace talent, Otto's idea is, subspace talent is indeed very unnatural, but if he makes good use of those distortions in the outside world, the existence of subspace talent inside the subspace will not only be of no benefit, but on the contrary, it is even possible that he was cowardly and tied himself to death inside the subspace. This is the method he used at this time. Huh. Jia Yan was shocked. Within the subdimensional space he was in, a large amount of binding force actually appeared. This was almost always smooth sailing for fighting in the subspace. Jia Yan, who had never been bombarded by external forces or restrained by machines, but had never been restrained by the power of a strong person, felt something was wrong. This Otto is indeed a mid-level powerhouse in the central star field of the Milky Way. For him, he is certainly not particularly afraid of the existence of subspace talents. Jia Yan's expression condensed. These are all hurdles that he must break through, because if there is an existence that can deal with the subspace talent, then there will be a second one. For Jia Yan, if his subspace combat mode does not change, the future will definitely be encountered a greater crisis. But if he wants to change, he doesn't just have to think about it himself. He has to see how others deal with a subdimensional talent like him, otherwise he won't be able to change at all. Because there is no way to start. I want to see how you deal with me. This little restraint is not enough. Jia Yan's eyes flickered without a trace of surprise. He broke free from the restraints and stepped back. Kaka kaka. A large amount of damage was caused within a large area of subspace due to the power competition between the two sides. Just as Jia Yan was retreating, an earth-shaking force suddenly struck from outside the subspace. Want to escape? I won't let you. Otto's cold voice came from outside the subspace. There was a coldness in his voice, and a hint of control over the world. It seemed that whether Jia Yan entered the subspace or broke free from his shackles in the subspace, everything was under his control. You don't allow it? Hey, Otto, you're not even a domain lord. If you don't match, I'll say no. Jia Yan was not affected by his momentum and still pushed back with all his strength. The implication is that Otto is too arrogant. He, Jia Yan, has even dodged the attacks of the two domain lord creatures. Otto is only at the top of the middle level of the galaxy, so why not allow him to dodge? Listening to Jia Yan's words, a trace of emotion appeared in Otto's eyes, but this emotion was well concealed by himself. On Jia Yan's side, he has been avoiding. That earth-shattering force, which was fearful all day long, instantly broke through the outer layer of the subspace and poured into the interior of the subspace. After entering the interior of the subspace, it quickly turned into a small dot like a bullet warhead. The penetrating power of point-like objects is extremely great. This is the secret of Otto's attack power. And this kind of attack is really an excellent choice to deal with subspace. At least those distortions don't have much impact on small points with considerable power. Well done. Jia Yan saw this small dot-like attack with his eyes, and instantly burst out with yin and yang dao power, causing his body to move a short distance out of thin air. Puff. At the same time, the small dot-like attack force, like lightning, crossed the direction where Jia Yan was previously. Jia Yan, to be honest, you kind of disappoint me. This is what you said is unworthy. Is this your strength to escape the pursuit of two domain lord level creatures? It's extremely boring. Odo watched helplessly as his attack barely missed Jia Yan's body. Not only was he not angry, but he laughed at him on the contrary. Jia Yan did not fight back. Because what the other party said was right, despite his incomparable arrogance just now, and the back and forth with Odo, he didn't seem to be losing the slightest bit, but the actual battle situation was that he couldn't resist it at all. The opponent's attack was extremely embarrassing. We have encountered crises several times. In this kind of battle, you still have to be tough. It's natural to be laughed at. Ken. Jia Yan's pair of giant mosquito compound eyes flashed with a hint of brilliance. This Odo probably doesn't know that he has always grown up in battles. Is it really okay to keep dragging him like this with Jia Yan? Hey, Lord Odo, don't look at you making fun of me, but if you really had the ability to hit me hard with one blow, you would have done it a long time ago. Now you don't have the ability to defeat me with one blow. Jia Yan dodged another attack from Odo. At the same time, he gradually grasped the feeling of the other party constantly interfering with the subspace and making him restrained. This feeling was so uncomfortable that it almost made it difficult for him to move forward. But if we really want to talk about it, he is the existence of subspace talent. No matter how much Odo can influence the subspace from outside the subspace, he is not the existence of subspace talent after all. Therefore, once Jia Yan becomes familiar with his overall method of influence, he will gradually adapt to it. Odo was obviously aware of this scene, but he was only slightly anxious and made no mistakes in his attack. Because Jia Yan is only familiar with the feeling of this kind of battle at most, and it is still different from the real response. With the existence of subspace talent in the central star field of the Milky Way, who is not familiar with fighting the enemy? If they are only familiar with others, if you can win the feeling of fighting, then the existence of subspace talents will be invincible in the entire galaxy. Puff. Odo once again attacked with a burst of attack energy. But this time, Jia Yan avoided it more easily. While he was dodging, Odo's brainwave power was restrained again, but this time, Jia Yan tore through the keynote of his brainwave power, causing his brainwave power to disappear in an instant. This is already the normal way of fighting for those with subspace talents in the central star field of the Milky Way. Odo felt a little shocked. Because Jia Yan's series of fighting methods no longer gave him the feeling of danger just now, but made him realize that Jia Yan was like a subdimensional person in the central star field of the Milky Way who was very skilled in dealing with other strong men. The talent exists. In other words, Jia Yan gradually got used to Odo's fighting style in such a short period of time, and also figured out the correct plan for fighting the enemy. This kind of intelligence processing and reaction talent in the face of battle? Odo was a little solemn. He had been talking about Jia Yan's subspace talent, or his weird positive and negative power talent, but no one had ever mentioned his ability to learn in battle. Galaxy-level beings are generally extremely talented in combat, but Jia Yan is beyond ordinary galaxy-level beings. No matter how talented others are, they need to finish the battle, look back and reflect carefully, and slowly think of the correct way to fight the enemy during reflection. But what about Jia Yan? He actually thought of how to deal with the enemy while fighting, and it was quite correct. This is an indescribable combat talent. For Odo, such a talent is more terrifying and astonishing than any other subspace talent. So what if you have fighting talent? I can at most regard you as an ordinary subspace talent in the central star region of the Milky Way galaxy. Even if you master how to fight, the gap in strength is still irreparable. Odo's face turned slightly serious. He officially regarded Jia Yan as a subspace talent in the central star region of the galaxy star territory. Although he had treated Jia Yan seriously before, he would always vaguely regard Jia Yan as a country bumpkin from the outside world. In addition, this was not a life and death battle, so he would always have some reservations. But now, Jia Yan's performance is gradually approaching that of a qualified subspace talent in the central star region of the Milky Way galaxy. he will naturally regard Jia Yan as a serious enemy. This is the calmness of a peak mid-level galaxy being. Anyway, he absolutely understood the most basic foundation. Jia Yan would not be able to harm him in the slightest. During the battle, Jia Yan never thought that he could harm even the slightest bit of being at the top of the intermediate level of galaxy. All of this is to prove myself, and at the same time give myself more experience in dealing with the strong men in the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy. This kind of life or death combat experience is extremely valuable to him. Huh? Why is this Odo more organized when fighting with me? The more I deal with it, the more organized he becomes. This is not to completely eliminate the advantages of the battle plan that I quickly learned. Did it fall? During Jia Yan's battle, he felt that Odo had completely entered a real fighting role, and Jia Yan's pressure increased greatly. At the same time, he also understood in his heart that he would definitely not be able to win in a battle with this existence. There's really no way to win, at least right now. Puff. Odo seemed to have some kind of anticipation and struck directly at the area where Jia Yan just wanted to move his legs and move to one side to avoid it. Fortunately, Jia Yan took a relatively small step and did not miss the attack. But deep down in his heart, he felt frightened. Jia Yan knew that the more he mastered the correct fighting skills, the more he was targeted by Odo. Moreover, Odo seemed to be taking this battle more and more seriously. There was already a strength gap between the two sides, so Jia Yan had a hard time. First, retreat to the deep subspace, think about how to solve the difference in strength between the two sides, and why the current scene occurred, and then fight again. Jia Yan retreated into the deep subspace. In his mind, as long as he enters the subspace, he can easily escape from the battle anytime and anywhere. He is deep in a subdimensional space, so Odo can easily hurt Jia Yan just like fighting him in a normal space. But if Jia Yan retreats to the second, third, or fourth degree, Odo wouldn't be able to hurt him so easily. It is true that if a galaxy-level being really wants to attack, it is possible to penetrate into 7 or 8 dimensions of space, but that is just an attack. It would be very difficult to hurt someone at a depth of 7 or 8 degrees. At least it would be a fool's errand to hurt someone like Jia Yan, a mid-level galaxy being of almost the same level as him. Even as long as Jia Yan enters the 4th dimension, Odo's all-out attack on Jia Yan may not be able to have any huge lethality. Of course, the premise of all this is that Jia Yan can retreat. Want to quit? There are subspace talents. 1 or 2 are tactics. Do you think we, the other talented people, can't do anything with them? When Odo saw Jia Yan's behavior, he knew what he wanted to do. Every being with subdimensional talent thinks that he can be on the battlefield, come and go whenever he wants. But in fact, they are often wrong. Jia Yan, just have a good feel for how the central star field of our galaxy deals with a subspace talent. Odo did not want to hide from Jia Yan how the public could deal with the existence of subspace talents, because if Jia Yan had the intention, he could easily ask it from the mouths of other local strong men. He doesn't know yet, it's just because he hasn't come into contact with enough local strong men. I saw the power of his brain waves, and restrained for a moment. Jia Yan, who retreated into the 2nd subspace, was startled when he saw that Odo had restrained his brainwave power. He thought that he would not fight because of the existence of subspace talent. If he hid in the deep subspace, this battle would be impossible. Beat. But the next moment, Jia Yan, who saw Odo's expression clearly, suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of crisis. Then, he was astonished. Because he suddenly realized that the huge brainwave power released by Odo when he was entangled with him did not disappear because he gave up his attack. Instead, after the 1st dimensional space, it went all the way to the 3rd dimensional space. When he was extremely shocked, because this endless brainwave power had, at some point, formed a circular shape, surrounding his entire body in a circle. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1999. Just as he was between the second-dimensional lines, circles surrounded him from the third-dimensional space. Escape. For a moment, Jia Yan felt his whole head roaring. This is surrounded, and it is inside subspace. It turns out that all the brainwave power restraints just now were not to restrain him at all, but to deploy the brainwave power in a large area of sub-rows, find the right opportunity, and kill him in one fell swoop. Is this the way to deal with the existence of subspace talents in the central star region of the Milky Way? When Jia Yan was still in shock and finally understood all this, Odo had already gathered an extremely huge momentum outside the subspace. He was going to deliver an unprecedented blow in this battle. It may cause Jia Yan serious injury, or it may cause Jia Yan's direct death. Jia Yan, I can't guarantee whether he will die or not. Just take the initiative. Otto smiled, and then ferociously released that earth-shattering power. Jia Yan at the other end hit a brainwave power wall surrounded by the second dimension. Asshole! Jia Yan's expression changed. At this moment, he understood that in the central star field of the Milky Way, which seemed safer and more rule-based, in fact there were no rules, it was all bullshit. If he really died under this sudden blow, Odo would at most be burdened with the infamy of killing an enemy and breaking the unspoken rules. But in fact, he, Jia Yan, died, and Odo there was no way he could die, at least if the next war started and the Zerg Queen didn't kill him, he wouldn't be executed. Everything depends on strength. Humph. Odo, since you made me realize the reality of the central star field of the Milky Way, then I will let you see how strong I am actually. Jia Yan has never used many of his trump cards, especially the real strength of Yin Yang Dao's brainwave power, just to deal with some crisis situations. Although he was sure that even if he used all the brainwave power of Onmyedo, or some other trump cards, he would still be unable to compare with Odo, he would definitely have a certain chance of escaping from him. Otherwise, is Jia Yan stupid? Good thing, he came to fight Odo. He came here to encircle, and Odo from the outside world also exploded most of his combat power when he was preparing to attack. This outbreak can be said to be another full-scale explosion of Jia Yan's strength since he was chased by the Domain Lord last time. Moreover, this explosion was the full-scale explosion of strength that even he himself did not fully understand after his strength had been upgraded to the middle level of the galaxy. Jia Yan himself is looking forward to how strong he is. Huh? As expected, this Jia Yan can actually explode with strength, so I can't let him leave without any injuries. If he escapes, then we will be in trouble. When Odo saw that Jia Yan's momentum had actually increased, he immediately felt a hint of threat. You know, in the battle just now, even Jia Yan's performance was remarkable, but he just never thought that Jia Yan could pose any threat to him, not even a little bit. But now, when he saw that Jia Yan had exploded with strength again, he felt inexplicably and felt a sense of threat in his heart. This meant that Jia Yan's current strength might hurt him. For Odo, is a warning. It is extremely shocking that a being who has not yet reached the peak of the middle level of the galaxy can actually threaten an existence like him, who is at the top of the middle level of the galaxy. Give it to me. Otto was in the outside world. He first let his brainwave power surround the net, and then doubled the encirclement in an instant. On the other hand, he charged up his attack and increased his speed again. Burst. Next, after finishing all the work, Otto unleashed his strength. Although he didn't use his full strength, this blow was definitely as good as his usual blow against ordinary beings of the same level. This shows that Odo, at least at this moment, has exploded to the level of strength he should have. For Jia Yan in the subspace, this blow, even if it was just Otto's ordinary level, made the sense of crisis in his heart reach its peak in an instant. Such a terrifying strength, this Odo's strength is simply unfathomable. For Jia Yan, Even if he has seen the combat power of the territory lord, it is still at a level that is difficult for him to touch. At this time, he has seen the strength of a mid-level galaxy existence, and this has a more real feeling, but this feeling is still a bit desperate. Escape. He finally had enough energy and suddenly unleashed all his escape abilities. Buzz. A piece of subspace, at this moment, seemed to be controlled by Jia Yan to resist the encircling brainwave power. This kind of control ability is not very sophisticated. It is obvious that Jia Yan has just mastered it. What? This. The person who made such a startled sound was not Odo from the outside world, but the subdimensional being who was recovering from his injuries in the enemy's position. He was the subspace strongman who had fought with Jia Yan, and the reason for his shock at this time was also very simple. Because when he fought Jia Yan last time, he clearly didn't see that Jia Yan had such subspace control ability, and the skills of controlling this ability seemed familiar to him. Holy crap, this is my control skill, and this kid actually learned it. He was shocked, and then felt a deep sense of crisis, which made him quickly transmit the message. Lord Odo, kill him quickly. This Jia Yan's learning ability is too strong. If he escapes without being injured, maybe he will have a chance to fight you further next time. I know. Odo's heart sank when he saw that his encirclement power was blocked. He understood better that this kind of power was something that Jia Yan did not possess last time. Jia Yan's growth is quite fast, at least in these few battles. The speed of his growth has made the enemies here slightly shocked. Even in Jia Yan, Odo saw the appearance of those days he had seen in the inner place of the Central Star territory where geniuses were rampant. How is it possible? How can he, a country boy, be compared with those galaxy-level geniuses in the Central Star region? I've thought too much. Now let's see how I can break through his nondescript obstruction. Odo's face was gloomy. While Jia Yan was resisting the power of his encircling brainwaves, the aggressive power that drove him accelerated and suddenly came to Jia Yan's eyes. Die. Puff. Jia Yang never expected that the brainwave power released by Odo could actually accelerate. This all involved very unscientific combat techniques. But this scene appeared in front of him very horrifyingly. At the first moment, Jia Yan was not thinking about studying, but about flying into the sky. He had just used his subspace control skills to resist the encircling force with his subspace talent. He was ready to find an opportunity to escape from the encirclement, but the sudden attack had already arrived. Roll. He had no choice, it was really too late to escape, so he could only use his full strength again to resist this blow. This is definitely Odo's trump card. To actually use it against a mid-level galaxy being like me is simply. Jia Yan felt that he was too confident, otherwise how could he inspire a middle-level peak person in the galaxy to use his trump card against him? Want to block? It's not that simple. Of course, Odo used his trump card. This kind of attack power can accelerate and even increase the power when released. It is an extremely huge burden for him, even when dealing with beings of the same level, in more critical situations. Only then will he use it. This time, he regretted that when he released the attack power just now, he only used a normal blow. As a result, the speed and power were increased, and he could only reach the speed and power of a slightly harder blow. It was a waste of time. A killer move, whether the price is a normal blow or a full blow, the burden he has to bear is the same. Odo knew that after he used this attack, he would have to rest for half a month, otherwise his combat effectiveness would be affected. He regretted that if he had used his full strength attack before and now strengthened it, it would be his super full strength attack, and Jia Yan would definitely die. But there was no turning back when he opened his bow. He knew that this blow would be his last blow against Jia Yan. If this blow did not kill Jia Yan would definitely admit defeat directly. Even if Jia Yan did not die, he would not die next time. When he met Odo for the first time, he would not fight Odo. At least when he reached Odo's strength, he would not fight Odo. After all, Jia Yan recognized the strength gap between the two sides. You want me to die? It's not that simple. Jia Yan gritted his teeth. He was a little angry at being treated like this by a person at the top of the middle level of the galaxy. Explode for me. On my OG power. The explosive yin and yang power triggered the metal suit on his wings. Boom. The metal armor that had just reached his body and became the shell of his body exploded today. But even though it had just been worn by Jia Yan for less than a month, Jia Yan still instilled the power of his brainwaves into this metal armor day and night, making it possess the positive and negative power of yin and yang dao. So Jia Yan at this moment, the rock exploded, which acted like self-exploding bones. This is an extremely amazing explosion. After the explosion occurs, it will push Jia Yan to move quickly. Boom. Jia Yan only felt that his body was like a flying arrow, moving sideways and moving away in an instant. But the power from the attack still shot through the right side of his abdomen very quickly. The extremely hard exoskeleton, together with the golden and blue defense that exploded with all its strength, had no effect and was still penetrated. Fortunately, at least the critical point was avoided. Now, Jia Yan was traumatized. I give up, Your Excellency Odo, your strength is indeed astonishing. Jia Yan drank coldly. Judging from his appearance, he didn't appear to be extremely traumatized. This shout came out, blocking the outside world and activating the attack force, preparing Odo's next move to attack. He glared at Jia Yan unwillingly, and then returned directly to his position. He was so angry that he didn't want to talk to Jia Yan. Because it was obvious that he had used his trump card, not to mention killing Jia Yan, but not even seriously injuring Jia Yan, and all his face was lost. Buzz. Inside the subspace, the surrounding brainwave power gradually disappeared after the remote control person failed to control it. Jia Yan's expression became slightly normal. He looked at his wounds. Awesome, this blow is simply one of the most severe wounds I have suffered after entering the galaxy level. The previous few times were all caused by the Territory Lord. I didn't expect that an existence at the top of the galaxy intermediate level could also be able to. It was so damaging to me. Jia Yan shook his head. Then it flew staggeringly outside the subspace. He was not seriously injured, but it was not a minor injury. After all, he was shot directly through the chest and abdomen. For any strong man, it was not a relatively minor wound. The wound was about half a kilometer wide, and could support countless humans living inside. Can such an injury be called a minor injury? The only thing that is more gratifying is that his last-minute avoidance really avoided the most critical point, and only the edge of the heart was injured. For a strong person, it is still possible to repair such an injury as long as he takes good care of it. Compared with other galaxy-level beings, Jia Yan doesn't care about such injuries, because even if he can't take care of himself well, he will definitely be fine if he mutates next time. Even before that, it will have a certain impact on his combat effectiveness, and next time the next mutation, I don't know when. So Jia Yan was thinking, he had to give it a try this time to see how he could recover from his injuries. You must know that he rarely recuperated his injuries like this before. He always waited until he mutated to repair his injuries. Little by little, he flew out of the subspace, and behind him, there was a string of red blood flowing from wounds on the chest and abdomen. Tear. Huge feet thrust out from subspace. Giant mosquitoes appeared from the subspace. Lord Jia Yan. Ha ha ha, he is actually alive. Lord Jia Yan was attacked by a mid-level peak being in the galaxy, and he was still able to survive. It's simply amazing. You know, there is a huge gap between intermediate galaxy. Some people have been discussing before, saying that to change the classification of intermediate galaxy, it must be between the intermediate galaxy and the peak of intermediate galaxy. Drawing a new level, you can see the difference, Master Jia Yan is actually able to survive. And the injuries he suffered don't seem too serious. Ha ha ha, you guys on the opposite side, have you seen that even the strongest among you can't kill Lord Jia Yan? Now do you dare to say that you are strong? Next time I come to challenge you, I will scold you to death, ha ha ha. A strong man at the top of the intermediate galaxy can't even kill one of us intermediate galaxy beings. Why is it so useless? Are you planning to make the people on our side laugh to death? This tactic is good. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2000. The power of the Zerg Queen was instantly overwhelming. Jia Yandu shook his head, and while flying back to the Zerg Queen's power position, he thought, no matter what, he was always the loser, so why did he act as if he had won? In fact, what Jia Yan didn't know was that it was like winning. Everyone believed that Jia Yan would definitely be killed or seriously injured if a Galaxy mid-level player took action. Now it seems that although the injuries are neither minor nor serious, they are definitely not serious injuries, and there is no death. Everyone could see Odo's attitude of taking action with all his strength before, but he did not kill Jia Yan even though he did it with all his strength. This caused the biological powerhouses on the Zerg Queen's side to explode in self-confidence. Crazy provocation. Humph. The loser is still so arrogant. Everyone in the Zerg Queen, since you are in the mood today, why don't we have another game? I will fight. Who dares to come at the beginning of the galaxy? Come on, do you really think Lord Odo is doing his best? He is just abiding by the rules. I will not abide by the rules. You come here without fear of death. From the opposite position, several elementary beings from the galaxy flew out, obviously truly angry. But on the Zerg Queen's side, no one paid any attention to them. Everyone is welcoming Jia Yan like a hero. Hey, those fools, whoever wants to fight you, wait until you comfort yourselves, Mr. Odo, and let's fight next time, ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha, don't cry too sad when you go back. The response was all sarcasm. They have no choice but to be unhappy. Whether Jia Yan loses this battle depends on who he loses to. That was lost to the enemy's position, which had always been aloof and thought it was an invincible existence. Normally, this person would not be happy if he lost in an embarrassing situation or even suffered serious injuries and death, but when Jia Yan lost, he lost because Odo lost his temper and used terrible fighting methods. This shows that Jia Yan has the capital to fight against Odo. Even if he is still close, at least Odo's arrogance will be dampened. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you are really surprising. The middle-level being of the galaxy who was guarding this position with Jia Yan, when he saw Jia Yan, it was like meeting another person. From the previous guarding together, he thought that he had learned a lot about Jia Yan, and even felt like he had a grasp of his strength. However, after the battle now, he was shocked and knew that Jia Yan was definitely not. It's as strong as I thought. No wonder Jia Yan was so confident just now. Haha, there's nothing surprising. I also made some breakthroughs after returning from this trip, otherwise I wouldn't dare to die. Jia Yan doesn't have much pride. For him, no matter what the process of this battle was, the result was that he lost. Jia Yan actually didn't lose many battles, so this time, his mood was not as exciting as everyone imagined. At least for him, a battle he didn't win or a battle in which he was seriously injured was not something to be happy about. Okay, you all should disperse and let Mr. Jia Yan have a good rest. He is injured. The middle-level galaxy being, probably seeing Jia Yan's less than excited mood, immediately turned around and asked all the surrounding galaxy primary level and stellar level beings to retreat. At the same time, he also had deep admiration for Jia Yan. For such a record, he actually had no idea of taking the greatest credit. And he also saw a hint of unwillingness in Jia Yanzong. Yes, he was unwilling to give in. Even when he started fighting, he knew that he would definitely lose but not win, but he still refused to give in. This shows that Jia Yan actually still wants to win. Buzz. Jia Yan returned to his territory in the mist formation. The position in the starry sky can actually be very large. After all, it only creates fog, and the area covered can easily be much larger than a planet. In such a huge position, the territory that Jia Yan can allocate is large enough, at least enough for him to run around here. My strength is indeed a bit lacking. If the outside world saw Jia Yan's current healing state, they would definitely be horrified. Because he was using his brainwave power to fuse the high-level energy stone on one side and block the wound. To other creatures, this approach is like blocking the injured area with garbage directly. It is simply a blind attempt, and it is impossible to heal the injury. But Jia Yan didn't care so much, he just did it. And what made others' eyes pop out was that what he did at this time actually had an effect. Under his congestion method, the abdominal wounds that penetrated the front and back were actually visible to the naked eye, and a blue color gradually appeared. Then these colors assimilated the high-level energy stones blocking the body into a blue color. Well, it's impossible for them to become part of my body instantly, but at least they are blocked. It will probably take a while for the injuries in this area to heal gradually. During this period, I still have to constantly use the power of brain waves to transform and repair, otherwise it won't be reparable. Jia Yan felt really uncomfortable being injured, especially the injury that had just happened not long after the mutation. At least he had to endure the pain until the next mutation. In fact, if his words were heard by other strong men, they would want to beat him to death. When someone is injured, it will be difficult to repair it in a lifetime, but it is good for him. After being injured for a while, he will definitely be able to repair it in the future. How can he feel uncomfortable even thinking about it in such a short time? Buzz buzz. Jia Yan's injury has healed, or at least it has been blocked. The future will be a matter of hard work, slowly assimilating the wound bit by bit, making it become a part of his body, just like a process of mutation, but this process is artificial. And the effect is definitely not as powerful as the transformation of mutation. He did not leave his area quickly. He was an evolved beast and could quickly repair injuries. This was also a huge advantage for Jia Yan. Therefore, he did not want to be known by others, at least he did not want to follow suit. Just go out and do something shocking. Moreover, Jia Yan had nothing to do when he went out. A battle between top powerhouses had just ended. Both sides would definitely have a quiet period, and they would both reflect on the battle or calm down. He went out. The most you can do is chat with others, which is a real waste of time. Having just finished such a battle, he needs time to digest what he gained from this battle. To be honest, this battle is a rare gain for Jia Yan. After all, the enemy at least went into battle with the intention of not killing. In the end, they actually did not use a killing move on Jia Yan. Even if that move might really threaten Jia Yan's life, it definitely wouldn't. It will be Otto's strongest weapon, otherwise Jia Yan may not survive. So this battle is the best training he has had since he came to the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy, and it is a training without danger. Every second there was a process worth remembering, analyzing, and conceiving of how to deal with the enemy. So Jia Yan is actually very busy. After cleaning up his wounds, he began his long process of recalling the battle, and then analyzing how to deal with it better. In addition to this times-over-level battle with enemies, Jia Yan has already fought 3 times with the strong men in the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy. If we count the several battles in the area where the Domain Lord is located near the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy. If it goes up, then there will be no less than 5 times. These 5 battles are enough for a strong person who has grown up in battles and has not weak comprehension ability to understand a lot of things. At least it will allow him to understand the fighting style of the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy, as well as the powerful I have a deep understanding of the strength of the reader. In fact, that's right. Jia Yan analyzed Odo's fighting strength and fighting skills and quickly integrated them into his own fighting style. At the same time, he gradually integrated the overall appearance of so many strong men he had fought into in this way. When facing other strong players in the galaxy's central star region in the future, they will not be as unsure as before, and they will not be able to do anything about their style. While Jia Yan was still repairing his wounds and recalling and improving the battle, his battle this time had been transmitted back to the Zerg Queen's energy circle at a speed that made others unbelievable. It's a piece of chicken feather. What? Jia Yan only lost a small amount in a battle with a peak mid-level star from the Milky Way central galaxy. This, and the whole process of the battle between the two parties, using no less than 10 moves, can he fight against a peak mid-level star in the galaxy for 10 moves? I remember that he was just promoted not long ago. How can he deal with a peak mid-level person in the galaxy? This reminds me of Her Majesty the Queen back then. Sure enough, Jia Yan is a very talented person. When he came to my Zerg territory, I still remember clearly what he said, saying that he was cooperating with the Queen. Now, there is really a trace of it. If he continues to improve at this rate, it won't take long for him to become a giant in our power. He may even be on par with His Excellency Black Sheep. Hush, be silent. Your Excellency Black Sheep looks down upon Jia Yan. Maybe this is the reason why Your Excellency Black Sheep has long noticed your amazing talent. In the energy circle built by the Zerg Queen, on a large number of exquisite planets, one by one, the galaxy-level beings are delivering messages. Even between the astral level and the venerable level, there is an undercurrent surging. The weaklings who had always looked down on Jia Yan and tried to keep a distance from Jia Yan all felt that they had made the wrong mistake before and should be with Jia Yan. It would be better to maintain a certain relationship with Yan. These ordinary strong men are already undercurrents, so those at the top are even more extraordinary. Oh! Did Jia Yan actually almost have a tie with an intergalactic peak being from the galaxy's central star region? The Queen of the Zerg, on her high throne, calmly listened to the news coming from below. She seemed to have already recognized Jia Yan's strength and the feeling that he had the pearl of wisdom in his hand. Of course, for such a domain lord creature, she naturally takes a dim view of everything. Unless Jia Yan also reaches the strength of a domain lord, it will not be a big shock to her. After all, even in the domain among the main creatures, the Zerg Queen is considered a powerful one. That's right, Jia Yan really fought a battle with Neaduo, and it seems that he didn't lose too badly. You know, Mr. Odo was involved in the battle with our forces at the beginning. Remember, Mr. Black Sheep, it seems that he has some experience with Neaduo. He must have done something. A creature at the top of the middle level of the galaxy looked at the Black Sheep beside the Zerg Queen indifferently. This mid-level peak creature of the galaxy is not very friendly with Black Sheep, and of course he is not an enemy. Both sides have their own factions, so it is natural not to deal with him. The look he gave Black Sheep was a bit sarcastic. Black Sheep was also chewing on the news this time, but after hearing this man's sarcasm, he suddenly shook his head indifferently. It's just Odo. If it hadn't been for the energy of the opponent's domain master, I would have taken off his head. Also, you said that when Jia Yan fought with him, there was a possibility of a draw. Haha, I don't think so. Look. Let's look at the intelligence. In this battle, Jia Yan provoked him first. Otto kept suppressing it and did not make a fatal move. Maybe the last one was more interesting, but it was not his true strength, so Jia Yan was able to don't take things too seriously when dealing with a galaxy intermediate, just treat it as a joke. Black Sheep would not agree with Jia Yan. What's more, what he said is correct. Jia Yan's strength, in this battle, has not yet completely reached a level comparable to that of a peak mid-level galaxy being. But everyone can see that Jia Yan's strength is really strong enough to make others look at him. The black sheep would not agree at all. Anyway, no matter what, this time Jia Yan had a small defeat with an enemy at the top of the middle level of galaxy. I will not reward him. After all, he lost, but he didn't lose anything. Anyway, this time for the battle, we will just spread it a little bit without paying too much attention to it, and also give me a message to Jia Yan, saying that I am looking forward to his future performance. The Zerg Queen calmly looked at the information again, and made a conclusion. The conclusion she made was very fair. Although Jia Yan lost a surprising amount to Odo, a loss is a loss. There is no reward for not defeating the enemy, so she will not give any reward. But she verbally expressed her encouragement to Jia Yan, so Jia Yan would not have any unhappy thoughts. This is how a good leader should behave. The black sheep sat at the bottom and looked at the Zerg Queen briefly. Then, a trace of anger flashed in his completely black goat eyes. It's Jia Yan again. Black Sheep's unfriendliness towards Jia Yan was known to everyone in the entire force, including the Zerg Queen, so no one would think anything of his anger. Fen Jiun Reading Network Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2001. But at least one thing is that Black Sheep cannot break the rules, confront Jia Yan head-on, or at least attack Jia Yan directly, so that the Zerg Queen will be the first to not spare him. So at this time, there was a strange look in Black Sheep's eyes, but he didn't show it. The discussion related to Jia Yan turned into a storm among the Zerg Queen's forces. But even if there was a storm, because Jia Yan was still defeated, he did not receive any substantial rewards or anything. But Jia Yan doesn't need rewards anymore. Call. Within the position, Jia Yan exhaled deeply, using the mouthparts of a giant mosquito. After exhaling this breath, Jia Yan's body, which had been tense, gradually relaxed. He was trying hard to recall the previous battle. Although it was just a memory, it was too intense, so his body tensed involuntarily. This would not do any good to his injured body, but Jia Yan endured it. Because it is very important to recall the battle situation, while recalling the battle with Naoto, he was thinking about the mentality of the enemy in each move, and how he should respond. Jia Yan's combat growth talent is an invisible talent that only Jia Yan himself, or people who have had a lot of contact with Jia Yan, will understand. In fact, he has always known that he is talented in combat. He used to think that this talent was the talent brought by the evolved beast. But now, he realized that it was not just the talent of the evolved beast. Effect, although that kind of talent must have a lot of effect, but it is definitely not just relying on the racial talent of the evolved beast that he has reached the point where he is now. The fighting process just now was like replaying a movie. It was vivid in my mind. It made me a little doubtful that I would start fighting again, and my whole body overreacted, haha, but the effect was quite good. When Jia Yan was reminiscing, there was always a replay movie-like effect, which made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Every time I want to react like fighting in reality. This was the reason why his body was stiff, and it even made his injuries slightly aggravated. But all the side effects were worth it. At least in this battle of memories, he gradually found some ways to deal with Naoto. For example, when I was surrounded by brainwave power, I was surrounded this time because I have no experience in dealing with such a strong person in the center of the star field. Next time if I encounter a strong person here, I will pay attention to my surroundings. Although I can't say that I can definitely get rid of this threat, at least the other party won't let me fall into the trap so easily. Also, when Odo dealt with me, he underestimated the enemy a little. If he dares to underestimate the enemy like this next time, then I can make certain choices that are beneficial to the battle based on his mentality. Other aspects, This time I have understood how the other party deals with a subspace talent. I will definitely not be too surprised when I fight him next time. This time he treats me. There were some people who were surprised, but I was even more surprised by his performance. It must have been my mistake. Facing such a strong man, I didn't look at his combat information beforehand. Jia Yan reflected on many of his mistakes, and then thought of many ways to deal with the situation at that time. This is an extremely important post-war summary for him. Next time he encounters a similar battle, he will be greatly improved. Of course, the summary and response thoughts are all the final issues for the last battle. Next time he encounters Odo, Jia Yan estimates that if his strength does not improve a lot, the outcome will not change much. After all, a summary is a summary. Your opponent will not act according to your ideas. Moreover, Odo is much stronger than Jia Yan. If you want to deal with him, relying only on one or two summaries is absolutely impossible to make a big change. But, Odo. Jia Yan's pair of giant mosquito eyes flashed with a trace of terrifying light. This is murderous intent. Humph, this guy has already entered my enemy list. If I have a chance, I will kill him. The murderous intention in Jia Yan's eyes was extremely serious. You must know that he has been more decisive in killing since the day he debuted, at least since he came out of the Earth. Therefore, he is now a qualified interstellar powerhouse. He has the decisiveness to kill an interstellar powerhouse, and his ambition is relatively big. He is a peak mid-level galaxy existence that others would not dare to think about for a while. He actually wanted to kill. Okay, it's better to go too far than it is to go too far. This is the end of my cultivation experience and healing during this period. The next step is to work hard, so just take your time. Jia Yan tidied up the energy stones all over the floor, and then tidied up everything around him. To be honest, if there wasn't a planet, Jia Yan would seriously ask for advice on how to create such a fog formation. In the future, he would have no home in the universe, so he would just create a fog like this. Otherwise, it is quite difficult to possess a body that is 10 kilometers long by hiding in certain places. Of course, even if there is a planet, this kind of fog can still be learned, because the planet cannot be carried everywhere. Master Jia Yan, have you recovered from your injuries and come out of confinement? How's the injury? Haha, judging from the look on your face, the injury should be almost healed. Congratulations, sir. There were several star-level existences, and the area where the mist was located was not far from where Jia Yan was. They sensed it when Jia Yan opened the door of his mist room. So everyone flew out of their mist room to congratulate Jia Yan. And it's not just them, they are just the first batch of strong men to congratulate him. Next, several galaxy-level comrades who heard about Jia Yan's release from seclusion, as well as his mid-level galaxy comrade who had the same strength as Jia Yan, rushed to the scene. Congratulations to Jia Yan, you actually suppressed the injury to this extent. Haha, if that Odo knew that your injury was only this small, he would definitely be depressed. Yes, Your Excellency Jia Yan, I can see that you are also somewhat talented in healing. Odo will definitely be angry to death when he sees you. Haha, Your Excellency Jia Yan, the last battle was such a relief for us. Now for so many days, the enemy's position has not dared to challenge us for a fight. Jia Yan looked at the comrades arriving one by one in front of him, and felt a little good in his heart. Whether it is for the strong or the weak, friends who come out of the same trench will be purer and their feelings will be deeper. At this moment, he felt that all the robes around him were sincerely paying attention to him. Thank you for everyone's concern. I'm not in any serious condition anymore. I'm probably not good at fighting yet, but it won't take long for me to recover at least 90% of my combat effectiveness. If they come again by then, I can help everyone. Now I ask you to work harder. Jia Yan also said this very sincerely to these comrades. In fact, his injury is about 90% better now. If he really wants to fight, he can now exert about 90% of his combat effectiveness, but he will not use all his trump cards. The idea that he will return to 90% of his combat effectiveness after some time in the future is consistent with the feeling of his injury at this time. How can you say this? Not to mention that the enemies don't dare to act rashly now. Even if they come, we will naturally go all out. We can't put all the pressure on you. Yes, Your Excellency Jia Yan said so, but he underestimated us a little. Ha ha ha, we deserve to be punished. We will go to the winery in our camp later and drink thousands of tons of strong man's wine. That's right. I heard that Your Excellency Jia Yan has never drunk the strong man's wine. Is it because he has a drinking capacity? Go ahead, let's go have a drink and see. A group of strong men came into contact with Jia Yan respectfully and with a touch of intimacy. After that, Jia Yanzhen agreed to the other party, and together with a group of galaxy-level and several star-level beings, they went to a misty place called the winery where the big guys were, and drank some wine with them. The so-called wine of the strong. This strong man's wine is actually made from poisons that are extremely toxic to ordinary creatures. But these poisons only have a slight anesthetic effect for strong men. It feels like the earth. Just like drinking alcohol, people sometimes feel a little dizzy. Of course, if the strong people don't like it, then the brainwave power can completely eliminate these feelings. However, the wine in the winery is not such a cheap thing. It is a bit wasteful to use the power of brainwaves to eliminate it. Most people don't do this. Besides, really seeking to get drunk is not a bad idea for the strong. A good thing to relieve the pressure of upgrades for strong people. As a result, even Jia Yan was a little drunk this time and felt dizzy. Haha, Lord Jia Yan, I didn't expect that your body, which looks relatively thin, can be so good at drinking. Ha ha ha, although it is normal for a mid-level galaxy being to drink better than us, I didn't expect that you can drink better than a group of us. It's amazing. This is still the result of not drinking too much. If you practice for a longer period of time, I guess the title of King of Drinks will fall to you. Why are you talking so much? Just do it. A group of creatures, whether powerful or not, were all piled together, drunk. I didn't expect that this strong man's wine is quite interesting. I will drink more at the end next time. Jia Yan was also a little drunk and even liked this feeling. He had drunk various types of strongman wine in other places before, but none of them tasted good, like drinking poison, which was boring. But the strong man's wine he drank this time was just right. Although it was also poisonous to the weak, there was actually some energy in it. Although it was not too much, it was still a gain. This gave the strong man a comfortable feeling in his body. Next, there was that just right feeling of dizziness, which was even more pleasurable. No wonder, the strong men of the Zerg Queen's force love drinking so much. Ha ha ha, I can feel that in the future, there will be another drinking king in our power. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you know that the wine in our force is a formula unique to the Zerg domain. It is a secret that the Queen of the Zerg has personally reviewed and checked. This time in the central star field of the Milky Way, she wanted to make such a powerful force. The wine business has not started yet, so if you think this wine tastes good, that is a natural thing. Many of us stayed in the Zerg Queen's force just because we drank this wine for free. Oh, I said, you talked a lot, including yourself, ha 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 ha. But I also admit that my staying in the Queen's force has something to do with this wine, not to mention that the Zerg Queen's force is quite good. The potential for future advancement is great, the Queen's talent is astonishing, and I am optimistic that she will become a high-ranking member of the galaxy, so that she will have a strong supporter in the future. Not bad, Your Excellency Jia Yan, don't look at the current situation of the Zerg Queen's force. The future prospects are definitely good, and I think that your excellency Black Sheep is about to reach the territory master, no more than 20 year, the future dual domain masters, tisk tisk. SHH, ahem, Mr. Jiayan, don't listen to his nonsense. Mr. Black Sheep may not be so fast. In short, I heard that you and Mr. Black Sheep have some personal grudges. In my opinion, there may be some misunderstanding. Otherwise, I have a personal relationship with Mr. Hei Yang, so I will go and talk to him on your behalf. If we can just laugh and let go of our grudges, wouldn't it be fast? Mr. Hei Yang is also a famous wine king. In fact, you may have something in common. Among the group of strong men who were staggering drunkenly, there were several galaxy-level beings, and they started talking about the grudge between Jia Yan and Black Sheep. One of them talked about Black Sheep as if he worshipped him, but the others all understood that Jia Yan had some issues with Black Sheep, and quickly urged him to stop talking. Jia Yan was silent for a while after listening to these words. Then he shook his head at the enthusiastic few. Guys, there is probably no way to reconcile the Black Sheep and I. In fact, I came to the Zerg Queen's force purely because of the Queen's personal charm. Of course, everyone is probably because of this, but for some reason, the Black Sheep came here for the first time. As soon as he saw me, he became hostile to me. He repeatedly mocked me, framed me, and even wanted to attack me directly. If you put yourself in his shoes, how would you think you could resolve your grudges with him if you were in this situation? Is it possible? Even if I wanted to, he would never be willing. He was also a little dizzy, and then smiled, feeling that he might as well take this opportunity today to explain what he said clearly. Brother, did you just say that Black Sheep will become a territory lord in 20 years at most? I actually believe that Black Sheep has good talent. It is still possible to become a territory lord in 20 years. But Jia Yan smiled confidently. Then, under the influence of alcohol, he said the rest of his words. Please remember the first domain name of this book, Fenjiun Novel Reading Network Mobile Version Reading Website. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2002. I think I can become a territory lord within 20 years. However, before I become a territory lord, if Black Sheep becomes a territory lord before me, it will be unlucky for me. When I hear the news that he has become a territory lord, I will directly leave, wait until I also become a territory lord, then I will officially return and fight with him. But, if he does not become a territory lord, and my strength reaches the peak of the intermediate galaxy, then, it will be the day when I go up to the Black Sheep's residence and have an open and honest battle with him. At that time, you can all become witnesses of this battle. Wow! Boom! Bang! Surrounding them were images of galaxy-level and weaker star-level beings, overturning chairs and tables in huge mist. They were all shocked. Yes, it is a shock. To these strong men, the existence of the Black Sheep is far from the Zerg Queen, but it is absolutely unshakable. The strength is almost equal to that of the Zerg Queen, and will be lower than that of one person. Above 10,000 people. Moreover, Black Sheep's strength is deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Everyone has always known that he is an existence that will surely retaliate. But this Jia Yan actually said such direct and heroic words today while drinking. Want to wait until your strength catches up with the Black Sheep before going to challenge? Simply a little bold. Several Zing-level people looked at each other, feeling that it was a bit harmful for them to invite Jia Yan to drink this wine. Drinking and causing trouble seemed not only the right of the weak, but how could a strong man like Jia Yan go crazy after drinking? But once I say this, I can't take it back. If Black Sheep wants an excuse, it doesn't matter if you are drunk or not. In other words, what Jia Yan said here today will be an excellent excuse for Black Sheep to pick fights and cause trouble. Guys, you all know that Your Excellency Jia Yan made a drunken blunder today, right? I don't want anyone to spread this matter in the future. The mid-level creature from the galaxy spoke so coldly to the surrounding galaxy-level creatures, as well as the star-level ones with greater power or strength. Of course that's the case, we won't talk nonsense. The few people around here were all people who wanted to have a good relationship with Jia Yan, and they all nodded quickly. Very well, Your Excellency Jia Yan, you have just been shut down today. Drinking too much must be bad for your health. Please go back and rest for a few more days. The Galaxy Intermediate said this to Jia Yan. Jia Yan was already a little annoyed by what he just said, but now he borrowed the donkey from the slope and nodded, okay. He left, and the good impression he had just had on wine was instantly wiped out, completely gone. As for wine, it's better to drink less. But dealing with black sheep, coming to challenge? When Jia Yan returned to his mist room, he wanted to smile slightly in his heart. Yes, he actually wanted to laugh, because he felt that he had spoken his true mind. Moreover, challenging black sheep in the future was what he wanted to do. Haha, someone needs to take care of this black sheep. I just did what I always wanted to do. Besides, if I don't believe it today, it won't spread to black sheep. After all, among so many people present, not all of them will have a good impression of me, Jia Yan. There are even people who have received great kindness from black sheep. I guess what I said has reached black sheep now, right? Forget it, he won't come to the door immediately. The future situation is just like what I just said. If he becomes the domain master first, I will leave first. Of course, this information must be a little more timely, and wait for him to achieve it. If the territory lord passes the message to me, the black sheep may have already come to kill them. And if I receive the information before then, I can escape in time. Jia Yan felt extremely relieved when he said these words. And just as Jia Yan thought, he, who had just been injured and was now released from seclusion, made some gaffe words as soon as he came out of seclusion, and the words were immediately spread to the ears of the black sheep. And it's not just the black sheep. As the leader of the power, the queen of the Zerg is naturally more likely to get a share. Even several other powerful middle-level peak beings in the galaxy also had such information. Does Jia Yan want to challenge black sheep? He also said that he wants to reach the peak of the intermediate galaxy before black sheep is promoted to territory lord, and then come. The Zerg queen looked at the information in her hand and smiled speechlessly. The reason why she laughed was that she felt that Jia Yan was still a little naive. Because she had walked this road, she knew how many things Jia Yan said were untrue. First of all, it is not impossible for Jia Yan to catch up with the black sheep, but it is unlikely. After all, the black sheep can defeat so many middle-level peak beings in the galaxy. In addition to the Zerg Queen herself, among the Zerg Queen's forces, the second strongest person, this shows that he is already at the peak of the middle level of the galaxy. It would not be surprising even if he is suddenly promoted tomorrow. It would be extremely difficult for Jia Yan to chase him like this. Secondly, even if Jia Yan catches up to the peak of galaxy intermediate level before black sheep is promoted to territory lord, he thinks he can challenge black sheep in this way? How wrong. Just like other levels, even if everyone is at the same level, there is still a strength gap between the same levels. Not to mention that black sheep is powerful in the Zerg domain, even in the central star domain of the Milky Way. He has defeated several top mid-level galactic powerhouses at the same level, which shows that he is astonishingly powerful at the same level. As for Jia Yan's newly promoted strength, it would be a bit foolish to challenge black sheep. Another point is that Jia Yan is overthinking. If black sheep didn't know these words, forget it. After hearing these words, it would be even more impossible to kill him, because black sheep is a person with his own self-esteem and even self-confidence. Since Jia Yan has said that he wants to challenge black sheep, he will wait until Jia Yan breaks through the middle level peak of galaxy and wait for Jia Yan's challenge. If Jia Yan does not challenge by then Black Sheep will take action. The Queen of the Zerg can be said to be like an outsider, able to see through the psychological thoughts of both parties at once. Jia Yan said this because he was young and energetic. It is said that he also drank some wine with a unique formula from the Zerg domain. It was inevitable that he would say the wrong thing. The Black Sheep is an extremely arrogant existence. The Zerg Queen also vaguely knows that if the Black Sheep breaks through to the strength of the Territory Lord, she will pursue her, but the Zerg Queen does not refuse. It can be seen that she has a crush on the Black Sheep. The sheep all agree. So it's okay if Black Sheep doesn't hear these words. If he hears them, he will definitely wait for Jia Yan to reach the peak of the middle level of galaxy. That's good. At least the two of them won't have any conflicts for the time being. The Queen of the Zerg actually has a little headache for these two guys. Now because of these words, the two of them will probably not fight again for the time being, and she can also be happy and relaxed for a while. As for the Zerg territory, Black Sheep and several other top bosses at the middle level of the galaxy were slightly silent for a while after reading the information from Jia Yan. This Jia Yan is very good. He has such courage. It seems that my Black Sheep's strength is still a bit disdainful to him. Very good, very good. Just as the Zerg Queen thought, Black Sheep felt a little cold after reading Jia Yan's information in her own palace area. He had made plans to wait until Jia Yan reached the top of the intermediate galaxy, and then let Jia Yan learn the terrifying aspects of his strength as the intermediate peak of the galaxy. It's quite funny that this Black Sheep offended a guy who is not afraid of death. But that Jia Yan, it's a pity. We don't dare to challenge the status of the Black Sheep, but he actually wants to reach out. That's right, we are also at the top of the galaxy intermediate level, and we don't dare to compete with Black Sheep in terms of strength. Alas, his promotion to Territory Lord probably happened in recent years. I still like this kid, but it's a pity that his mouth is too poisonous, so let's forget it and stop contacting him. He may be killed by his mouth in the future. Several mid-galaxy peak beings who originally wanted to help Jia Yan, but after listening to Jia Yan's words, they were no longer so interested in Jia Yan. Moreover, they were not optimistic about what Jia Yan said. Many people think that this should be Jia Yan's drunken gaffe, but they understand better that regardless of whether Jia Yan made a drunken gaffe or not, Black Sheep will definitely hold on to this and let Jia Yan fulfill his words in the future. All in all, it's a big show. Even if Jia Yan is promoted to the Territory Lord level before Black Sheep, it will be a chase scene, which will give people a little fun. Everyone began to act as spectators and prepared melon seeds and fruits. The words that the mid-level galaxy being in the formation told everyone to keep secret were probably just a joke. There were so many strong men present, and there were probably few who didn't spread the word, so even those words, about Jia Yan's intention to challenge the Black Sheep, had already spread like wildfire, even to the point where he himself heard it. I'll go, Your Excellency Jia Yan, I'm sorry. I didn't expect that they actually misrepresented what I said, but it spread even more. It doesn't matter. That's what I thought at the beginning. If I say it, I will naturally be responsible to the end. Jia Yan happened to be inspecting a fog position with this mid-level comrade from the galaxy. When he heard this mid-level comrade from the galaxy hurriedly confess to himself, Jia Yan waved his hand indifferently. Although he was a little drunk at the time, he was still a little clear-headed in his heart. At least he knew that there would be no immediate consequences for what he said. The facts were just as Jia Yan had planned. Black Sheep didn't react, and the other strong men didn't react either. Even the Queen of the Zerg knew about it, but she didn't refute what Jia Yan said. This is like saying you guys fight, and we'll watch a show when you fight. Jia Yan couldn't guarantee that if the two of them really got into that situation and fought fiercely, whether the Zerg Queen would intervene, but he was sure that the Zerg Queen herself would not be a complete pacifist. Don't even think of him as a gentle old man. Even though the Zerg Queen has always done a good job in Jia Yan's opinion, don't forget that in terms of age, the Zerg Queen is only over 100 years old, which is younger than many venerables, let alone others. Domain Lord creature. She also had an extremely wild temperament. She had fought against a large number of local galactic and domain lord levels before, and finally gained the limelight of commanding a large area of Zerg territory. For Jia Yan, this was a terrifying ability that he could not imagine. Therefore, she is not afraid of getting into trouble. For her, small things like fighting between her subordinates are probably just spices to encourage her subordinates to fight in a healthy way, and then everyone will make progress together. The other middle-level top bosses in the galaxy will not have any intention to obstruct such a thing. After all, for them, if Black Sheep can be weaker or have one more imaginary opponent, they will be very happy. After thinking about some of the infighting, Jia Yan didn't feel unhappy about being treated like a nobody. In fact, this is not bad. When he joined the Zerg Queen's domain, he was a real nobody. Everyone was like watching a monkey being fooled, watching him being challenged day by day and pointing fingers. But now, he has rushed to the middle level of the galaxy. It is obvious that even if everyone is still watching the fun, they will not treat him as a little monkey, at least they have to face it. Even if he is a black sheep, he can't just laugh it off, which is actually a bit sad for Jia Yan. Black Sheep is solemn, but other strong players want to use Jia Yan to interfere with Black Sheep, which shows that Jia Yan is at least a good chess piece. Of course, the future Jia Yan will not just want to be a chess piece. He wanted to be a chess player, and one of the main players. Even. In the end, the words spoken to the Zerg Queen must be fulfilled. Side by side with her, becoming a collaborator, instead of like now, it seems that the Zerg Queen agrees with him as a collaborator, but actually uses it as a subordinate. Haha, that's right. When I came to the Zerg Queen's territory, my original intention was not to fight some black sheep, nor to catch up with them. As Jia Yan thought about it, he thought of his original intention to join the Queen of the Zerg. My original intention has always been to learn the knowledge of the Zerg Queen, and then, reach or even surpass this domain lord level powerhouse. For a moment, Jia Yan remembered his original ambition. In this force, his final target of competition should not be the black sheep, but the Queen of the Zerg, who is so superior that no one in the force can reach her height. Lord Jia Yan, Lord Jia Yan. Next to Jia Yan, the middle-level being of the galaxy saw Jia Yan's blank look on his face, as if he was under a spell, so he shouted a few words repeatedly. Well, I was a little distracted, you say. Jia Yan quickly came to his senses. Haha, it's natural for adults to think too much. If it were me in this situation, I would definitely think too much and even have a huge headache. Actually, what I want to ask is that when you were in seclusion to repair your body, I got information about the commercial star you won through gambling. It said that there was a good alien chamber of commerce that wanted to contact you. They said the goods have already agreed to pass through this commercial star, so you should let them pass. Please remember the first domain name of this book, Fenjiun Novel Reading Network Mobile Version Reading Website. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2003. What about the commercial star? This should be left to the star class. I have asked him to do it a long time ago. Jia Yan is a little strange. No, it was the star level being who sent the news. The communication he came from said that the symbol on the Chamber of Commerce's spaceship is the Chamber of Commerce that you told him to pay attention to. Anyway, the spacecraft has been detained. Stop, he wants to ask what you mean. What? That Chamber of Commerce is really here. When Jia Yan heard this, he was instantly surprised. He knew that the Chamber of Commerce that he wanted to pay attention to was a very large one in the central star field of the galaxy. It often came and went on the edge, but he did not expect that their spaceship would arrive so soon. In this way, let them live. No, I'll go there in person. There shouldn't be any fighting here recently. There shouldn't be any problem if I spend a few days on my own business, right? Jia Yan pondered for a moment and felt that he should go and meet the people from the Chamber of Commerce in person to show that he was sincere. There should be nothing going on here. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you want to meet the people from this Chamber of Commerce. Is there anything unique about this Chamber of Commerce? But Your Excellency Jia Yan, you are going too far. You are doing business in the central star field of this galaxy. None of the chambers of commerce are easy to mess with. It would be fine if you detain them, but if you want to ask for anything more, that would be a bit excessive. No, I just went over to ask some questions. They probably won't come to us for trouble just because of an ordinary seizure, right? Such a large chamber of commerce should have experienced many such things. Jia Yan swung his feet and instantly rose into the sky, heading towards the land of commercial stars. Behind him, the mid-level galaxy comrade looked silently, and then let out a long sigh. In fact, he knew that Jia Yan must have needed something before he would fight with the Chamber of Commerce's spaceship, and as Jia Yan said, a huge Chamber of Commerce would not be angry because of such a short-term detention. As long as the business Jia Yan gives them is big enough, these chambers of commerce will never care about a small loss of time. He knew that for Jia Yan, he was just a cultivator who only thought about his own leveling up, and something that could attract his attention so much meant that this chamber of commerce must have a way for Jia Yan to quickly improve his strength. Your Excellency Jia Yan, it seems that he really has a certain chance to rush to the top of the intermediate galaxy before Black Sheep is promoted, but I don't know if anyone will come to rescue him when he fights Black Sheep. This comrade is really not optimistic about the battle between Jia Yan and Black Sheep. Even if Jia Yan reaches the peak of the intermediate galaxy, he thinks there is an impossible gap with Black Sheep. So for Jia Yan's sake, it's better not to be promoted so quickly. It's a pity that he probably won't listen to himself. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I have spoken out. I am your friend. If you lose in the future, or even have a personal accident, I will help you a little, but it will be difficult for me to work hard. Haha, when we reach the galaxy level, I think it's impossible to ask you to work for me, so that's the end of it. This mid-level being in the galaxy really regards Jia Yan as his good friend. After all, he is a being who has stepped out on the battlefield. Jia Yan is still a person who has helped him so much. He naturally values Jia Yanting. Jia Yanfei left the position. He had no idea that the mid-level galaxy comrade behind him actually regarded him as a close friend. In fact, this is what Jia Yan has experienced recently. Previously, he had always been relatively withdrawn and had no desire to make friends. As a result, he has become stronger, but his feeling of being withdrawn is getting worse day by day. One day it got serious, so he made friends some time ago. It feels good to take the initiative to make friends with others, and because there are a large number of galaxy-level existences, it is actually similar to Jia Yan's previous state. He wants to make friends because there are few people with the same strength and they are generally lonely, so it was hard to lose face when we made friends, but it happened that Jia Yan started to take the initiative, and he became Jia Yan's friend who really gained a lot. Sometimes, strong people are also very pure. Because they are strong enough, everyone will follow their true heart. If Jia Yan is good to them, then they will return more good things to him. This is a very simple world of comparison. That business star is really prosperous. Killing him earlier was a very correct decision for me. During the flight, Jia Yan felt that his previous efforts to capture the commercial star were a very correct decision. After all, without this commercial star, he would have gained a lot of benefits, and there would be no information today. As for the so-called Chamber of Commerce spaceship today, which Chamber of Commerce does it come from? In fact, it is very simple. The Chamber of Commerce that Jia Yan will look for, at least in the central star field of this galaxy, will be the only one that is useful to him. That was the information about the energy matter previously learned in the game Starry Sky in the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy. That kind of energy material is considered advanced even in the central star field of the entire galaxy. If the 3-star level existences of the game's operators were not optimistic about the future prospects of the game, they would not be willing to spend a big price and invest so much. More advanced energy becomes the main energy source of the game. And more importantly, for Jia Yan, this energy is like tailor-made for himself, and it perfectly fits his evolved beast body. So since he got that kind of power last time, he has been looking forward to it. The best way to find the manufacturer of this energy is to buy a copy of the manufacturing method of this energy. After all, for others, this kind of power is good or not, but it is not a power that is used directly for food, but is used to become an omnipotent power like a game space, build some buildings, or use it as a certain manufacturing uses. It is really very different from Jia Yan's use. He can make the best use of everything. Others probably don't know that he uses it to improve themselves. The price should not be that high. Of course, everything is Jia Yan's own imagination. If a large chamber of commerce uses it as a front to sell things, it must not be easily sold. If it doesn't work, Jia Yan also thought about it carefully and bought some for practice first. When he is strong enough in the future, there's no need for him to tell you what's next. There were actually no surprises during the flight. During the whole process, Jia Yan also sent several communications, asking the star-level beings over there to entertain the opponent well on Jia Yan's behalf without using force. Of course, Jia Yan estimated that even if force was used, the opponent would not. There must be good players. A star-level being on his side can't suppress others. To be honest, anyone who wants to defeat Commercial Star now has a chance to defeat it. The only thing to consider is that after defeating Commercial Star, Jia Yan, and even the entire Zerg Queen force, will not give up. Even if it is a super powerful force, there are forces with high-level beings in the galaxy behind them. If they want to attack certain forces, they will not act so arbitrarily, because in this central star field of the Milky Way, there are its own rules, and there are also strong people who cannot use force. The reason is, after all, the central star field of the entire galaxy is so big, and the high-level forces behind it cannot use the high-level forces to fight every time. Besides, even if you occupy such a large area of land, and you can't control it, how can you still fight? What fight? It's better to give people some food. Therefore, those big forces will not easily attack the small forces, even the small forces from the outside world that have just captured Commercial Star. On this day, Jia Yan flew for about 3 days, during which time he read a lot of information on the internet, and then he arrived at Commercial Star with confidence. In the land of Commercial Star, many spaceships were indeed intercepted, including not only the spacecraft of the Chamber of Commerce that Jia Yan wanted to intercept, but also other spaceships of the so-called Chamber of Commerce that had negotiated a price with the former owner. Master Jia Yan, you are finally here. When Jia Yan arrived, the star-level being, with a sad face, was already waiting on the starry sky road that Jia Yan must pass. Oh? Why did you come here to wait for me in person, but because there is something difficult to solve? Jia Yan looked at the star inexplicably. That's right, sir. In fact, even if the Chamber of Commerce you are waiting for does not arrive, we will definitely call you soon. After all, things here are a little more troublesome than we thought. The star-level being looked a bit sad. He was also the one who helped run the business star that he occupied before. He didn't feel that there was such trouble last time. This time, the business star was probably just guarding the main road. Many problems made him a little confused. Fortunately, Jia Yan is here, so he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. He can just leave the problem to Jia Yan. Besides, Jia Yan is considered a combat power. His combat power is not enough to deter the people on this planet, but Jia Yan is just right. Okay, now while walking, tell me the situation. Jia Yan and this stellar being flew towards the commercial star together while asking about the situation. In fact, things were similar to what Jia Yan had guessed. That is to say, some strong people do not listen to the words of that star-level being. Even if they move out Jia Yan, move out the Zerg Queen's forces behind Jia Yan, or even release the Zerg Queen, a good domain lord creature, they will not do it. Acknowledge the account. After all, the strength of the Zerg Queen is just that she has fought 2 domain lord creatures in this starry sky, and her reputation has not yet spread. What's more, even if she defeated the 2 border area lords, it didn't prove that the Zerg Queen was really strong. Because this is the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy, there is never a shortage of powerful beings and beings with good talents. Even the creatures at the top of the domain lord have many in this huge starry sky, so the Queen of the Zerg almost no one would be afraid of a talented domain lord. Of course, this is talking about the power level. On the personal level, naturally many people will be afraid of an existence like the Zerg Queen. After all, she is too powerful. As for Jia Yan, forget it. To threaten 1 or 2 planets, a galaxy mid-level like Jia Yan still has a bit of face, but if he wants to threaten the entire force, it is just a joke, and it is almost like seeking death. After listening to the complaints of this star-level being, Jia Yan finally understood that there were many Chamber of Commerce spacecraft on the commercial star that did not obey orders. These spaceships had just arrived. One by one, they heard that commercial star had changed its owner, and they either wanted to lower the price, or they wanted to follow the old contract with the enemy star field. This also involves, for example, the humiliating historical issues on the enemy's side, the issue of corruption when a strong man was in charge, human relationships, etc. Therefore, it is absolutely impossible for the Zerg Queen forces here to recognize many bad debts. Ever since, the situation has become a bit difficult to handle. Many spaceships and chambers of commerce have been blocked, and the star level being arranged by Jia Yan is a little helpless. Fortunately, he saw a very familiar figure in the huge spaceship of the Chamber of Commerce. After taking a closer look, he instantly understood that this was actually the Chamber of Commerce that Jia Yan had ordered to see if it would come. In this way, he went to Shuyuan and used that excuse to call Jia Yan, and also asked Jia Yan to deal with the problem here. Haha, you actually did a good job. A star level can handle so many problems. I underestimated you. After hearing this, Jia Yan was extremely surprised by the stellar existence in front of him. After all, the situation inside, let alone this stellar existence, even Jia Yan felt a little overwhelmed. When it comes to issues at the level of major forces, generally speaking, a mid-level galaxy mid-level peak existence such as Black Sheep needs to come forward. Otherwise, it feels like looking down on others. As a result, on this business star, Black Sheep did not show up at this level. Even his nominal manager, Jia Yan, did not show up. Presumably, the star level being next to him must have been under great pressure. Jia Yan was slightly worried for this stellar manager and praised him, which immediately made him feel better. This is how you do things. What you are afraid of is not the effort, but that no one will understand your hard work after you have given it. Master Jia Yan is so complimentary. I don't have to work very hard. After all, this is my mission. In fact, there are too few strong people in our force. Even if the other places are slightly better than me, they are almost as good. They all endured the pressure, but I couldn't bear the pressure, and I felt a little ashamed. Haha, it doesn't have to be like this. I still understand your work pressure. Anyway, I'm here this time. Let me see how much pressure these chambers of commerce and forces can put on me. Of course, I also want to see if the chamber of commerce that I have been looking forward to for a long time will give me any surprises. Jia Yan smiled slightly. Please remember the first domain name of this book, Fenjiun Novel Reading Network Mobile Version Reading Website. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2004. For this trip, he actually saw it as relaxation during the war. No matter how great the pressure is, how great can it be? Those forces such as chambers of commerce, even if they have strong energy behind them, are still just chambers of commerce, and they need to abide by the laws and regulations to do business, otherwise they will not be able to reach the level of chambers of commerce, so he, a middle-level star of the galaxy, stepped forward. Wouldn't people still give me some face? However, the Chamber of Commerce that is also in the ranks of making trouble is the Chamber of Commerce that Jia Yan wants to buy high-level game energy. I wonder if they are also among the arrogant and domineering ranks? Sir, look at the fleet in front of you. It is one of the more difficult chambers of commerce for me to deal with this time. It is said that the strength behind them is extremely amazing. There is also a galaxy class in the Chamber of Commerce fleet this time. Suddenly, the stellar ruler who led Jia Yan all the way pointed out that the fleet in front of Jia Yan was one of the more difficult fleets for him to deal with. Jia Yan followed his gaze. I saw that it was indeed a large fleet, an extremely powerful fleet. Each merchant ship was 100 kilometers long. What was even more terrifying was that the flagship at the front was a terrifying 500 kilometers long. It is said to be the largest spaceship that Jia Yan has seen in so long since his rebirth. Of course, in the central star field of the Milky Way, there will definitely be no shortage of similar spaceships, and there will even be many. But for Jia Yan, such a spaceship is already the most terrifying spacecraft he has ever seen in his life. It involves science and technology, etc., are probably left to the Orion arm to study. It will probably take hundreds of thousands of years of research to learn them. Master Jia Yan, we, the Zerg Queen, have also obtained the technology of this spaceship. Unfortunately, the spacecraft researchers accompanying us all said that we cannot learn it, and the technology is not up to standard. In the future, we can only buy some such spaceships locally. Come on, it's just that the energy consumed by such a spaceship is extremely terrifying, and it's not cost-effective for us to buy such a spaceship. The stellar being was explaining to Jia Yan again. Jia Yan nodded. He doesn't care about technology at all, and he doesn't even think that science and technology can do much in today's era of strong men. Of course, Jia Yan is also positive about science. At least he will try to use science. Technology solves certain problems, but some strong people really completely deny science and technology. For them, the era of the strong requires strong people to convince the public. As for science, use it if you can. If you want special development and encouragement, it is simply not worth it. Jia Yan has no other thoughts, but as a strong man, Jia Yan also has some deep-rooted resistance to science that may threaten the strong, and even the scientific era that may come in the future. What level is the strongest person on this spaceship? Jia Yan didn't ask any more questions, he just asked about the opponent's strength. Beginner level of galaxy, less than intermediate level. The stellar ruler replied. Jia Yan nodded, then went straight to the direction of the spaceship without asking any more questions. Jia Yan didn't understand administration and making agreements. He was not an expert at all. Jia Yan doesn't want to care about the historical grudges between the two parties. Presumably, the stellar subordinates around him didn't want Jia Yan to talk to them about administrative and historical reasons. The purpose of his coming is to have fists. In the era of strong men, this is easy to understand. He who comes is stopped. Suddenly, Jia Yan arrived in front of the huge spacecraft, and suddenly there was an earth-shattering sound of brainwave power coming from inside the spacecraft. Then, the owner of the huge voice flew out from the huge spaceship. This is a creature that looks like a leopard, covered in green and extremely bright. His arrival did not surprise Jia Yan. A galaxy-level being is needed to take control of such a large spaceship. Sir, who are you? Do you have any advice from the Chamber of Commerce approaching us? The huge green leopard flew in front of Jia Yan, and then his expression changed slightly, and his attitude towards Jia Yan changed from being unhappy just now to being slightly polite. Because he noticed that Jia Yan was stronger than him and was a mid-level galaxy being. I am the leader of the Zerg Queen's forces on this commercial star. I heard that everyone is coming, so I came to take a look. I wonder if we, the masters, have any negligence. Jia Yan smiled slightly and didn't look down on anyone. After all, they had to collect tolls. In the interstellar world, every business star that is on one side, or a planet that is fighting, needs to collect a toll. This is not due to the strength of the planet, nor is it an overbearing clause, but because of in the interstellar sky, the seemingly relatively flat starry sky is still full of troubles. For example, in the starry sky, there are countless fragments of meteorites, large and small. These small things look relatively ordinary and normal, but if a huge spacecraft flies by at extremely high speeds and hits these meteorite fragments, although many of them are protected, mechanism, but if one is not careful, accidents may occur, which requires the local planet or force to clean it every day, which is money. The more troublesome problem is that there is a distortion of time and space on the road. The most terrifying thing is that a black hole appears from nowhere. This requires local forces to come forward to remind the merchant ships and warships to change their routes. It's all trouble and money. The spaceships and chambers of commerce that come and go understand the difficulties of these local planets, and are naturally willing to pay. Of course, you can also don't want to, just take the risk and go into the stars yourself. In fact, there are many strong people. For example, Jia Yan has a new way of flying. Subspace, gravitational wave space, and even different time systems are the walking rules of many strong people. But it is very difficult to put those things on such a huge spaceship. Especially in terms of average cost, it is not worth it. In addition, the ship has to be stopped from time to do business, which wastes startup energy. It is better to be honest. Really give money to the planets and forces in the past. This is why in the starry sky, every merchant guild and forces merchant ships and the like have to pay tolls. Even large forces cannot avoid this custom, because rules are rules. Of course, in actual situations, there will be many unexpected or contradictory factors, such as today's commercial star, because the Zerg Queen has just conquered this planet, and issues such as previous business transactions and terms can easily break out. Oh? So you are the so-called Lord Jia Yan, right? Haha, I am the leader of caravan number 132 of the Jianwang Chamber of Commerce. Sir Jia Yan, you have built this business star. We have no problem, but this time why do we need to increase tolls so much? The price difference between us and the original owner is nearly double. When the other party heard Jia Yan's name, he immediately understood that this was the person in charge of commercial star. The status of both parties is actually the same. They are just people working for the power. There are still some differences between him and Jia Yan. He is a little weaker, but the background behind it is much greater. You must know that they have hundreds of caravans, and each caravan has a galaxy level like him. The people who sit in power are huge compared to ordinary forces, and there are even several domain masters behind them. Such a force, compared to a force that has just arrived in the central star field of the galaxy, is definitely a behemoth and cannot be offended. So his attitude was a bit condescending even though Jia Yan was better than him and he didn't dare to be so arrogant. Of course Jia Yan knew the other person's mentality, and he thought that if he were in the other person's position, he would probably be in high spirits. But this is not the reason for the other party not to hand over the money. Your Excellency, you know that maintaining routes on a planet is quite difficult. Although we have only taken over the commercial star not long ago, we have always been attentive to the maintenance of routes. There are several galaxy-level existences every day. The money and efforts invested in detecting dangers and issuing warnings on the route are obvious to all. As for the rules between you and the former commercial star owner, to be honest, we don't have much dealings with your Chamber of Commerce. Of course, dealings like this things can be taken care of in the future, but now everyone is treated equally, isn't it about twice the price? Next time you bring more goods to sell, you can make money back. Jia Yan joked. The other party doesn't seem to like this. Your Excellency Jia Yan, that's not the case. We don't care if you occupy the things of the former power. But if the business rules are changed, it will be a bit unreasonable. Business things are about inheritance. You have inherited that power. If everything is like this, then we must keep it as it is, otherwise how can we do business? What's more, you are just a small force, so ignorant of flexibility. We, the Chamber of Commerce forces, can easily destroy you. To be honest, you need to understand the rules and principles of the central star field of our galaxy, otherwise you may not be able to survive. This leopard-like creature looks a bit sinister. Your Excellency, this is a bit much. Our Zerg Queen forces treat noble forces equally. According to the rules of the universe, the friends of the enemy are the enemies. We have given you face by not showing hostility to you. Why do you want to take advantage of us again, and, you said destroy us? Very good, if you think our Zerg Queen force is easy to bully, then you can give it a try. I think you are not among the noble forces. The kind of person who can stick to his word, I think the senior management will not be so short-sighted. Jia Yan sneered. If you make big talk and threaten, then I won't accept your threat, not to mention it's just big talk, and no one can speak it. This kind of thing, I already knew before coming here that it would definitely happen. You are very good, Jia Yan, right? I hope you won't be trapped in a cocoon. I know that you have some troubles with the higher UPS in this power. Haha, if you are in trouble in the future, don't be unable to find a job or even be kicked out by a big power. Assassination. This leopard-like creature actually threatened again. No, I guess you won't see that day. Now that we've agreed, are you going to hand over the money now? If not, then don't go this way, or go explore the sea route. If with luck, the caravan may not suffer any losses if it travels along our route. Jia Yan didn't give him any face at all, and he couldn't get enough of him. Very good, very good. Jia Yan, a strong man from the countryside, is very tough. Let's fight, but things will not end so easily. The caravan I will lead in the future will never go to you. The leopard creature flew back to his spaceship. Not long after, the entire huge Chamber of Commerce fleet of 20 or 30 ships began to set off. Since they couldn't reach an agreement, they had no choice but to take action. After paying the money, they could just leave. Of course, there is no conflict. Jia Yan is obviously stronger than the other party, and the other party will not seek abuse for nothing. Moreover, in fact, the money is not a big loss for the caravan, but they don't like to keep paying for it when they leave in the future. All they have to bear is such a sum of money. But now that Jia Yan has rejected their negotiation, he can only accept it properly. Master Jia Yan, thanks to you, if I were yelled at by them like this, I would be scared to accept their offer. That stellar ruler flew forward, as if he was frightened. Just now he thought that the two sides were going to fight. Haha, wasn't I just used as a thug? What's more, there seemed to be a conflict just now. In fact, we are not hostile at all and can't fight. Well, take a look and see if there are any more troublesome caravans or forces. The ship asked me to go over and talk. There are 2 other companies over there with galaxy-level officials. One of them is the Chamber of Commerce, which is the Chamber of Commerce you want to meet. Sir, if you want to discuss some business with them, I think it is okay to give them certain benefits. I think the Queen and others should give you such a little face. A star-level existence actually instigated Jia Yan to serve his own interests. No need, Jia Yan, am not that kind of person. If the negotiation breaks down, I might as well talk to their other caravans. I don't believe it. If the negotiation breaks down with one caravan, their other caravans won't be able to do my business either. Jia Yan waved his hand. There was no need for such a move. It is a good thing for Jia Yan to use the loss of the Zerg Queen's power to create some benefits for himself, but if Jia Yan uses it, he may be exposed. The black sheep may be waiting for these things. He is not stupid. He said a few words to challenge the black sheep, and they spread like crazy throughout the entire Zerg Queen force. Now if he does this for personal gain, it will definitely give people more leverage. Are you that Jia Yan? Very good. He is indeed a good man. He is gifted. He is indeed worthy of the title of a country genius. I'll give you some face. The second galaxy-level power master seems to be reasonable, but his words are a bit ugly. In short, he is willing to bear the original cost. Okay, next is the Chamber of Commerce. Please remember the first domain name of this book, Fenjiun Novel Reading Network Mobile Version Reading Website.